An episode full of parallels and familiar elements, multiple uncomfortable dinners, some with knowing sips of wine and or decent ale, high tower hands aplenty, though one set of those high tower hands were actually Alice Rivers's, I guess. A Velaryon hand loses a finger, and there's an incredibly stressful dragon scene that it's a miracle no one lost a hand or foot or wing in. Syrax even breathes fire when Rhaenyra rides her into conflict, and Rhaenyra breathes fire when Mysaria rides her into conflict. Yeah, pretty similar, I suppose. But this is not just having fun with mirrors. This is a central theme, not just of House of the Dragon, but of the entire A Song of Ice and Fire universe, something George loves to write about, and that is the theme of what power does to people. These are all examples of that, whether you're gaining it or losing it. This is an episode called The Dragon in Winter, and it really showcases that, whether it's Mysaria's gradual rise or Rhaenyra suddenly discovering that she has a tool like Helaena that she might be able to use, or whether it's power restored in the blink of an eye like Sunfyre coming back to Aegon, or just as quickly lost like Rhaenyra and Rhaena and Sheepstealer, excuse me. Whether it's unwanted power or even despised like Daeron and the crown he's having foisted on him, or a temptation, the ultimate temptation as presented to Ulf. It comes in many forms, and yes, power tends to burn all around it, especially when dragons are about. And yes, in this case, uncontrollable laughter is optional. Uncontrollable dragons are mandatory. All that on and more on this review of the penultimate episode of Season 3 of House of the Dragon here on History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody. It is episode 7 discussion time. I'm Aziz. With me, as always, for TV show reviews are Sean and Ashaya. We do these every 6 o'clock Eastern during the TV season on Mondays, and we do preview streams most Fridays during the TV season where we talk about spoilers and what's to come. So yeah, no spoilers in these review episodes, although Sean may every once in a while stumble upon one. He is unsullied on House of the Dragon / Dance of the Dragons, and he may every once in a while make a guess that is actually very rare. You've been very good with your guesses this year, Sean, and some of them are stuff that happens in the book, so it might come off like you actually knew, but no, you're just a good guesser most of the time, and that's a great thing to be in the case like this. How you doing? What you got? Do you get another green beverage there or something else today? What's up?
Still my quote-unquote standard mix of Green Machine, Magic Mind, and Mountain Dew.
And
I'll say, yeah, I'll give myself some credit maybe for making some good guesses, but maybe some credit too to Martin and or the show writers for, presenting things that make sense, if you will. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
You've also both got nice shirts on today. Sean has a pink variant of the History of Westeros logo. It's a pink egg, which is fitting and nice for Sean's name and Dreamfire with the pink accents. And Aziz has my Dance of the Dragons tour poster shirt on, which is on all of them are on our thread list. I did the Dance of the Dragons design. Fox and Brambles, who did our logo, did the History of Westeros design.
This shirt also has the tour dates on the back, kind of like the Duncan Egg shirt Shea did, but this one's two-sided, which we also have the Duncan Egg shirt available in two-sided. Yeah, check our website for that link and for lots of other goodies you can get by being a fan and follower of History of Westeros. If you have questions or comments, you can certainly hit us up here live or after the fact, whether it's about the show, the books, something completely unrelated, whatever you want to say. Let's talk about the intro crawl. That is often where we start. It's certainly dedicated to Kristen Cole. It doesn't necessarily look that way at the start, but it certainly rounds into that. There's a bunch of people dead, blood everywhere, figures, corpses, not entirely sure. But then it becomes apparent that these are all the things surrounding this central figure of Kristen Cole. He is encased in glory, I suppose, on a tapestry, if not in the way he wanted to, and via song. The intro crawl certainly has him represented quite well here. He's shot full of arrows as he went down. The blood coming out of him is how a lot of these characters on the tapestry are portrayed as dying. Death all around him. 7-pointed star as well, though. Different things that are associated with him, starting the war, but also the kind of trappings and values he wrapped himself in. Whether he lived up to them is something we've discussed, but it's certainly associated with him. One little criticism that I think all of us here on History of Westeros have had with this opening crawl, we like it. I mean, the tapestry change from season 1, great idea. But I kind of wish that they would keep with the new changes and keep us, so we could keep seeing the ones that are added instead of just seeing the season 1 ones over and over.
Why
Or
do we
season
need
2.
to keep seeing Valyria and Aegon? Like, I think you can cut that stuff down and keep it cohesive and more able to be followed.
Yeah.
I think that's a miss. I think we've talked to people here, not just us, but people who watch with us, and I think I don't know. I think we're sick of seeing the same scenes.
We want to see the full season 2, all the season 2 stuff, and that would be cool to have different. And maybe in the first episode you see just the old stuff. But anyway, that's obviously not a major complaint. But we wanted to say it. Something that's been on our mind for a while, and we hadn't pointed it out too much yet. The episode name. This is where there's a lot more depth than usual. It's not often that there is a ton of depth in the episode name. It's just a title. But this one's called The Dragon in Winter, which is a play on the play, The Lion in Winter. It's not only a play, it's also been a film, several films really. It's been adapted in a number of ways, but I believe it was first a Broadway play. And the film had Peter O'Toole as King Henry II, Katharine Hepburn as Eleanor of Aquitaine. And this is the story of the anarchy, the English anarchy of the mid-1100s that is the inspiration for the beginning of the Dance of the Dragons, also called the Times of Trouble. King Henry wanted John to inherit. Eleanor wanted Richard the Lionheart to inherit. Now this is... different stuff happens different times. So
it's also a
it
real
all leads
family.
to all that.
It's also a real family drama, about, a lot of uncomfortable conversations and stuff like that. I grew up with a different version. I grew up with the 2003 version with Patrick Stewart and Glenn Close. But yeah, I always had fond memories of this particular story. I've seen the other one too, but when you see one first, you're kind of like, I don't know. Patrick Stewart is who I think of. But yeah, it was a cool title, right?
Yeah, very cool with that. It also fits pretty thematically with what happens in the episode too. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
The biggest difference in the, what this is based on, the anarchy and this Dance of Dragons, is that a lot less dragons died in the anarchy.
Good point. A lot less, yeah. Unless you count Welshmen, in which case quite a few dragons died. That's their sigil. And that's neat to bring up because Wales has been a major filming location this season. So yeah, that's has a nice tie-in. So just in case I didn't say it right, that's after the anarchy is what this movie / play portrays, not during. There's plenty of other things that have portrayed the war itself, but this is more like after. Anyway, moving on to the actual episode in question, we'll start with our favorite performances, and that starts with you, Sean. Who did you like the most this episode, acting-wise?
It's really tricky. I don't know if I could single out a single person. Sometimes I just default to Rhaenyra. And, one that I want to name here, not that Rhaena or her actress didn't do a great job, but the moment, that really stood out to me, there's a certain quote, and, maybe I'm mixing up favorite performance and favorite quote and favorite scene or whatever. But when she said, I will die absolved if I cannot live that way, I think was the line. I really love that. Also, there was a moment with Daemon that I really loved when he's going to Jane and kind of making these demands, and there's this awkward pause, and he's like, please. That was really good.
That was really good.
And, maybe the obvious pick, is Aegon. That kind of commanding speech that he gave was all really good. I'm probably stealing you guys' picks, especially since I stole 3, but I don't know. I just can't decide.
Yeah, you did steal ours, but that's okay, because when we all agree, that says something. I think it's fun. We don't always all pick the same ones, but we kind of sort of did here. So yeah, go ahead, Shea.
Yeah, I would say Tom Glencarney as Aegon. I think it was a real feature for him, and he had this, great maniacal glee and madness to him among, just his relief and feeling moved and the tears in his eyes when he sees Sunfyre, him kind of having been resigned before that, but yet still rebellious against it. You know, he hasn't really accepted it, even though like he seems like he has. I don't know. He played a lot of layers there, and I thought the performance was very good. I also just want to give a shout out to Ulf's final smile. Just what a great shot of that. Just like kind of. It really cracked me up, and was dark, and a lot to be said for the framing and the way they hung on Tom Bennett's smile as Ulf in the last beat. So 2 Toms I picked both Toms.
Good point, you did. But not Tom Tangletongue. But good job in his one scene there, Tom Tangletongue. I'm also going to pick Matt Smith as Daemon. Certainly, his character was different this episode than he often is in an episode where a lot of people are just trying to deal with power. He's trying to deal with the consequences of something he already did, but something that he didn't fully create. It's something that he probably shouldn't have done, but he did for good reasons. And that portrayal, obviously the judgment of his actions is separate from the performance. I think Matt Smith carried this conflict extremely well, and as he's often had to this season, way more than in seasons 1 or 2, he's had to have a wide range as an actor. I wouldn't say this was quite as wide a range as he had in, what was it, episode 2 or 3, when he was fully black and white, like fully evil, fully good in so many different ways. This is more of the softer side of Daemon, the kind that we don't see as much. So we got more of it, perhaps. And yeah, like you said, Sean, he said please. He actually said please 3 times this episode, which is maybe all 3 times he's ever said it in the whole run of the show, which is indicative of the different set of circumstances he's in. And that's a neat sort of difference to a lot of other characters in this particular episode. So as we'll go through the episode, we'll also mention our favorite scenes, but we'll hit those when we get to them.
I don't want to get too into it here, but interesting you said indicative of the different set of circumstances that he's in. And I don't necessarily disagree, as opposed to character growth that he's had. You know, I think he might still be the same person. He still has the same ambition, stubbornness, arrogance. But he's kind of forced to do these things he doesn't want to do. Maybe I should give him credit for some growth. But
I think there is some growth.
He's an interesting character,
but we'll talk about it.
I like him or not.
Yeah, I think there is some growth, but we'll talk about it when we get there. I think it's mostly to do with Rhaenyra, but yeah, we'll get there. This first section is called Dreamfire Weaver. I believe Rhaenyra will not let me get through the night because she'll wake me up. And yeah, this is Helena's perspective. We'll talk all about the Helaena stuff. It was a very Helaena-loaded episode, both front and back. And it's really meaty and interesting. And I think there'll probably be more in episode 8. So this is, which is kind of like last season where a lot of the strongest Helaena supernatural content was saved for the end. She starts with a dream of herself alone. She's just petting this horse. She calls it a gray mare later. It doesn't really look that gray to me, but whatever. It's almost certainly the animal she was talking about when Rhaenyra says, "What's the last thing you saw in your dream?" And she's like, "I saw a gray mare."
Yeah, no, to me it's a white or a silver mare.
Yeah.
Like gray, but anyways.
But pretty sure that's what she's talking about. I don't think there's some trick here. She sees the doors open, and it's kind of like the freedom that I think this is symbolic of the freedom that's just beyond her grasp, but she can't quite reach. And then she's awoken by the very person keeping her captive. And this is kind of looking up.
Can I give a shout out to this shot where it shows her looking up and then it cuts right to Rhaenyra looking down? I thought that was such a good edit and series of shots.
Yeah, their roles are still reversed here. It's Helaena is the one powerless and under Rhaenyra's thumb, but Rhaenyra really wants things from her and is so desperate to get those things from her, and Helena's very put off by it. Let's get to more details and then get some takes on it. She starts off with some basic questions that don't have anything to do with supernatural stuff. It's kind of a weak attempt to make small talk. Like Rhaenyra is just so eager to get to the meat of this conversation. Then when she gets there, she just goes too far and gets frustrated and gets mad and gets commanding. It's not at all how I imagine she planned this would go, but she's just so intent and so curious and so frustrated and paranoid that she can't help herself. She asks, "Did Aemon ask you to ride to battle?" And she kind of nods, and Lord Corlys said he would. She nods. It's kind of like a reminder of how crappy your family is. Like, hey, you're on my side. And then she brings up our father, blah, blah, blah. And she's talking about dragons, and because Helaena says she doesn't really like riding Dreamfire anymore. It's too much for her. It's too intense. She doesn't exactly say what that means. But then we get into probably what it means, which is, yes, she brings up, Rhaenyra brings up their father, And Helaena has a quick answer, says he didn't want to be altered. That's why he forsook his dragon, because it was changing him. Rhaenyra basically scoffs at this. She says, altered by dragons? No, of course not. Then she backs down a little and says, well, I don't wish to be. And then there's this look. It's like, this is not the look of someone who is your friend.
Yeah, this big smile, this big fake smile.
Yes.
She's just so not genuine, so fake, so single-minded. And she did the exact thing in our preview stream. We were like, will she just push the tapestry that she's, her embroidery away? Yeah. She just ignored what she's working on.
Look at the tapestry. Look at that needlepoint work right there. So basically, Helaena could be afraid here, but she's not. She does not come off as afraid here. She comes off as, first, it's the sweet summer child look. It's like, of course you've been changed. Look at what you're doing right this moment. How can you say you're not changed given what you're doing right now? And then she says, what did you see? And she says, yeah, I see flashes sometimes. Rhaenyra tries to back it off a little bit, says, hey, I'm just trying to end the war, which is true. But she doesn't sell this very well at all. Like, Helaena can see through her. Helaena, as we've seen, is extremely emotionally intelligent. Helaena is listening less to the words and more to the body language and the gestures. That she's more keyed in on that. And in this case, Rhaenyra's body language and gestures are aggressive. They're very aggressive. They're demanding. And Helaena does not want to... First of all, Helaena doesn't want to tell her what her dreams are, even if she had answers for her, because it would just mean that's me from now. And you're just going to come to me all the time for these answers. And like, I don't want to be that for you. I don't want to play that role. I don't want to help you kill people or whatever it is. She doesn't want that. And when this resistance pushes that last little bit of restraint that Rhaenyra is barely holding on to. And she basically just starts to say things like, tell me there's been no mistake, that I will prevail as the gods surely intend. Tell me. She's like, she really, really wants confirmation. She really wants to be told it's going to be okay, that she's on the right side of things. And this culminates much later in the episode when Rhaenyra asks Mysaria directly, am I worthy? And of course, Mysaria runs with that, but we'll get to that later. So, and then she starts to not even know if Helena's being truthful. So this is all why Helaena knows not to even go there in the first place, because no matter what she says, it's going to get questioned. Getting questioned for saying nothing is the lesser of two evils, probably. So,
yeah, I mean, she even grabs her and all. She escalates pretty quick right here. She has like zero patience here. She just woke up. Remember that. Like, what does Rhaenyra think that if she lets 10 minutes go by, the dreams will flit out of her mind?
Get you while you're sleeping right there. Yeah.
Like,
I think there's a little bit something there, but it's
something like that's why she did this. Because otherwise, it's so weird to me that she's like, wake you up.
Yeah, she just doesn't know how this works, and she's not really thinking about it. She's more like approaching it emotionally because it's the desperation is at work here, I think. So, Sean, let's hear your way in before we move on to the next dream, because we're going to cover all of her dreams at once.
Yeah, there's a little, in addition to all the stuff you said about Rhaenyra is kind of desperate and aggressive, she's also being a little naive about the whole thing, right? It's not just that Helaena doesn't want to tell her or doesn't want to become the person who's, her guidance and maybe has to tell her things she doesn't want to hear. It's not, and all those could be factors too, but she doesn't necessarily fully understand it herself, right? She has these flickers of images, and some of them might be, a caterpillar, and that makes her want to go to the garden. Some of them might be Aemon in a womb in Harrenhal, but even Helaena wasn't like, hey mom, Aemon's in Harrenhal. She just stitched the image, and Helaena pieced together Alicent pieced together what that must mean. Does that make sense?
No, that's not quite right. She asked her, and she said, yeah, Aemon is in Harrenhal. But still, you're still right.
She asked her after she saw the stitching. I guess maybe she did understand it, to be fair.
But you're right either way, yeah.
It's not this scroll of facts that Helaena knows that she's going to rattle off to Rhaenyra. And all those facts will be the facts Rhaenyra wants to know, right? It's this blur of a montage of all sorts of different imagery that might mean a bunch of different things, and maybe 2 or 3 of them might be something relevant to what Rhaenyra wants to hear, but Helaena might not even realize or understand it, right? She might have a dream of a wolf, coming to the city gate. She doesn't understand that means the winter wolves are approaching Harrenhal, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, she could potentially maybe describe all the different imagery to her, and then maybe Rhaenyra could construe something from that. But Rhaenyra clearly doesn't have the patience for that, right? She doesn't want to hear the details of what color the horse was and whether the moon was shining. She just wants answers. Where's Aemon? Where are the Winter Wolves? Am I supposed to be queen? And Helaena just cannot give her that. No matter, even if she wanted to be cooperative, even if Rhaenyra was a little less aggressive or whatever, it's not going to come the way Rhaenyra wants. She's just not going to get this written prophecy of what she's supposed to do next,
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah. So that scene ends, and then the remainder of Helena's dreams are when she's just by herself. There is no presence of Rhaenyra for the rest of them, but they certainly speak to many different things. So yeah, I just thought it was also one last comment there about Rhaenyra. I thought it was really notable that Helaena was, at first she was like, "Oh, you sweet summer child," and as Rhaenyra went on and on, there still wasn't fear. It was like pity and then contempt. That's the vibe I got from Fia Saban there. That she wasn't scared. I mean, she just goes back to her needlepoint. That she's just like she wasn't that
shocked,
worried.
Right? Maybe surprised. She's like, "Whoa, like you really have to." She didn't expect this. I don't think.
Yeah,
like,
I agree with that. She was more startled than scared. Yeah,
startled. That's it. Yeah, that's one other thing I wanted to say when Rhaenyra said, I don't remember the exact quote, but you paraphrased it something like, "I just want to end the war." It's not untruthful, right? It's not that she doesn't want to end the war, but she doesn't just want to end the war. She wants a bunch of other things too. She wants to end the war with herself as queen. She wants vengeance for her dead son. She wants da-da-da-da, right? She does want to end the war, but she doesn't just want to end the war. She wants a lot of other things too.
So the next dream is of her having her baby. So we were definitely wondering about this one. This was been in the trailer since the preseason. So we were kind of back and forth throughout the season on, is this a dream? That's kind of where we started because of the timing. And then, with the Harrenhal stuff, it might fit in there. It might be not even her dream. It could have been one of Aemon's dreams while at Harrenhal, because obviously Aemon going to Harrenhal, lots of crazy sort of dreamy stuff could have happened there. So in the end, it is her dream. She's dreaming of her baby and then is taken away by the Kingsguard. And that is interrupted by her sort of having a brief waking moment where the camera shows her sleeping, but it's meant to be like distorted, disconnected, or she's a little disconcerted because she's shown vertically. She's shown in her bed, but the camera is vertical. She's not shown prone or an angle that would show her prone, but of course she's still asleep. So this is to show that one dream is changing to another. And that other dream is she's basically Rhaenys. She's replaying the moment as Rhaenys when they're inside the dragon pit, and she's being faced by Rhaenys alongside the rest of her family during Aegon's coronation. The moment where, had Rhaenys said Dracarys, which was kind of on everyone's mind there, it might have stopped the whole war before it started. But she's not just merged with Rhaenys, her dragon is merged with Meleys. So it's sort of a combination of Dreamfire Meleys a bit.
Her clothes are kind of merged with that early Rhaenyra outfit. It's not Rhaenys' outfit. Oh. Rhaenys is in her armor there. This is like Rhaenyra is hunting when she goes out, on the hunt. Remember that outfit?
Yes, when she saw the white stag, yes.
It's very, very similar to that. So it's kind of, okay. I was...
Certainly the posture and positioning are like Rhaenys, but you're right. I guess that is a different outfit. Yes, you're right. She did have her armor on, didn't she, in that moment? Anyway, the dragon, it looks to me, that still looks like Meleys, but there's some bluing to it, I think, meant to remind us of Dreamfire. I'm not entirely clear what they're doing there, but I'm pretty sure that's still Meleys, presumably, or predominantly in terms of the design.
I guess I wasn't. I was thinking that Dreamfire is a queen of a dragon. It has horns, lays eggs, and has horns, and is this, beautiful blue, purple, pink gradient of colors, Yeah,
it could be. I really think this was almost exactly the design of Meleys, but I didn't get a chance to look. So other people can weigh in, and we'll do more looking on it later. But not all the dragons denoted as queens have those crests. So I think it's because they're called, they get that name because they have the crest. I think that's why Tessarion was given that name, because she had that sort of horn crest. Anyway, I'm definitely not confident with a lot of this. So it deserves further looks. Anyway, as for the dream itself, instead of facing that coronation scene, she's facing an open wall where you can see the Red Keep in the distance, and there's people charging towards her. A lot of y'all might guess this is a certain foreshadowing of a certain event next year that we will not talk about right now. It's almost certainly coming, but we'll talk about it during the preview as well. But Helaena actually says, Dracarys, as these people get close, which, that's... Helaena doing that is maybe a little bit of a surprise. She might do it to save her own life or life of her child, but of course she's a very nonviolent person. And then it switches to herself in an idyllic place, as if an alternate reality or an alternate future. And the reason that you have to think of it as an alternate future is because her son is still alive. It's both of her twins. She's not pregnant with her current child, but she has both of her twins again instead of just the one.
Much older.
And they're older. It's probably that same horse that was there, the horse that they maybe escaped with, that was her, maybe a symbol of her being able to leave, to ride the horse away. And of course, the chickens that she talked about before. That's a little more straightforward. But even in this idyllic alternate future, winter comes. The eclipse happens. The storm winds blow, and I'm not sure if this is meant to show that the ice and fire dream, Aegon's dream, or the fact that there's about to be a long winter in Westeros, which is both things are true, so it could be both. Either way, winter is coming. That's always true in a sense, right?
I thought they were completely clear about everything they wanted to communicate here, so I don't know why you have all this confusion.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me know what you think. That's pretty much all the detail that I have. So yeah, let me hear from you guys.
I thought I wasn't sure who that dragon was supposed to be. I just sort of assumed it was her dragon. I don't know that we've even seen her dragon on screen.
Okay,
I don't know if I know what her dragon looks like.
Can I cut in?
Yeah.
One, we have only really seen Dreamfire, like vaguely, briefly. Dreamfire was, I believe, confirmed to be the dragon that tries to burn Aemond during the pink dread scene, but that's like very dark and dim. They've purposefully kind of kept us from seeing Dreamfire, but no, I believe that this is Dreamfire's new like canon appearance and how she looks. I see Aziz. Aziz was making the point that perhaps Dreamfire had elements of Meleys put into the Dreamfire design because this is like a dream, and things from dreams are things like, oh, she's in a different clothes, her hair is different, like there's a certain unreality to it, and that's what he's saying. But it always is. I don't think we ever thought it wasn't Dreamfire that she was on there.
Just that there might be some juxtaposition of elements.
Just like anyone who's had a dream,
or Meleys or Rhaenyra or whoever.
But she was there for that. Like she was there when Meleys was facing them all. That would be very memorable for her.
Why imagery is there. But, anyways, I think that's just a common experience to kind of amalgamate things that you've seen.
And a good way to present a dream in a show too, when you are being ambiguous, and it's also it goes back to my earlier point that like. Say she described all this stuff to Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra would be like, oh, now I know what Ormond's plan is. Now I know I'm supposed, how would this help Rhaenyra if she gave her all this and all the detail? Or it still wouldn't be what Rhaenyra wants. The idea is that she has these visions. They may be inaccurate. They may be memories of her past or supernatural imagery from the future. They may be accurate or not. I was wondering, like, one way maybe to interpret this is like, she needs to get out of there. One way is sort of peaceful, like, oh, the gates are open. I'll ride out on this horse. Maybe it's unrealistic. Another way is maybe she has to burst out with a dragon and violence. And then when she gets out, what does she think she's going to do? Go be with her kids? Like, how is she bringing her kid with her in either of these images, right? With her perfect future vision included a kid that's already dead. Like, this is a mix of, like, I think, potential things that could happen, things that she wants to happen. Some of this might blur into what was going on with Aemond too. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But a thing I'm wondering is how much this is set. How much is this stuff she wants or stuff that's going to happen that she's seen, however accurate it may or may not be,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is why I brought up episode 8 in advance here, is that last season, that's what they did. They had kind of Helaena dreams and then some more. And I think that what we're seeing here is probably going to have some additional things added, some more dreams that we can look at as a whole and compare them to this. And it might be sort of like, well, putting all these pieces together, we might have some more answers. So I definitely want to talk about them as we have, but I also want to look at them next week when there's more to compare with them as well. So I'm going to keep that in mind. There's probably going to be some. I like that idea that, these different angles that you can approach with it. And a lot of them can be true at the same time. And that's something that's true about dreams, is more than one thing can be true at the same time. Great comment here that Ashea posted from the chat. I read this as possible futures. Wonder if this one means that if Helaena had run away with her kids, humanity would lose the War of the Long Night. Woo, yikes. Like, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, you never know. That's certainly possible. And that gets back to what Sean was saying. Even if Helaena could explain all this to Rhaenyra, what good would it do her? You know, what's Rhaenyra going to do with this information? It could just make her more paranoid, right? Which certainly doesn't need that right now.
Can I say, some people in the chat have also wondered if the other child is the child she is pregnant with. I do think they look like the same age, but I think it's kind of a moot point. The idea is it's an alternate future, whether that's Jaehaera and Jaehaerys or Jaehaera and her unborn child who is, you know, I don't know kids' ages well enough. They could be a few years apart. They could be the exact same age. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Not important. The point is alternate future, not really that potential, not really that likely of a future because it's so unreal and eerie. It has a clear dreamlike element to it, you know?
Certainly, it all seems very grim. It doesn't look like any of this seems like there's goodness coming for Helaena. It looks like bleak, the outlook, the future. I don't know what. If hopefully there's maybe some good for her so she can see some nice things. But let's talk about her brother. This, we'll say, is called Fear and Loathing in Harrenhal Part 2. It's Fear and Loathing in Harrenhal Part 2 because Part 1 was last season with Daemon. It's just, you know, this is what Harrenhal does. There's unsettling music that carries over from the scene with Helaena and Rhaenyra, and it's here when Aemond is practicing with his sword. Now, he's able to do most of his moves. He obviously has been in a fight, and there's adrenaline involved in that. But when he twists his body around too far, the pain hits him, so he's definitely still got a little bit of recovering to do. And as he's crouched over, what seems to be his mother walks in. It's a bit sudden, right? I don't know. I'm curious when everyone started questioning what was going on here. I did right away because she walks right into her bedroom. We had already made the point in a previous episode how whenever someone shows up at Harrenhal, Alice seems to be right there to greet them. And so this was jarring. So already I was on guard here. And then, yeah, she says some things, and it's an interesting series of things she says because it's hard for us to fathom how Alice would know some of these things. Like, how does Alice know these things? Or is it just coming out of Aemon's mind and he's projecting them and Harrenhal is the vehicle for that? I lean more towards that because there's things Alice shouldn't necessarily know. Either way, there's a lot of creepiness here. I thought this was pretty well done. Obviously, that starts with the creepiness of mother and son together and then turns into more traditional horror where she's just morphing into somebody else. And this is preceded by, you know, the expected questions. First, he's surprised, and she says, I told you I would come if I could, which, yeah, she did say that. Were you not taken captive? Well, your sister was taken captive, but I managed to stay hidden to escape. You've been so clever to remain here undiscovered. Of course, you got to compliment him, tell him he loves those motherly compliments. And then he says, I thought all had forsaken me. And he asks, what of Aegon? She says, Aegon is most likely dead. She says, I did all I could. And for you, yeah, what's up?
I just want to point out, as you said, right off the bat, you got to be suspicious, right? How did she get in there? Not only would not intercepted by Alice, but just shows up and this is a massive castle. Where the hell does she know what room is his? You know, like immediately I'm suspicious. And as all these different things you're saying, these are the things in Aemon's mind. This is what he knows, what he wants, what he's worried about, what he thinks of himself, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? This is his dream manifesting itself through Allison.
Yeah, I agree with that, except it's not a dream. It's happening. It's really happening. So it's like a waking dream. Yeah, vision. Say. I think, yeah, vision's probably the better word. You're saying it right, though.
They did call it a dream in the behind the scenes.
Oh, that's interesting. I was like, is this Alice's glamour? Like, you know, does she? How does she have Aemon's perception as Allison? You know, what trick is she playing with his mind? You know.
Well, I don't know that she was playing a trick. That's the question. I think I was where I was going with it at first, but I think that the thing she says at the end is what maybe sells another alternative. When he pushes her off and runs away, she says, Aemond, what did you see? Like she doesn't know what he's seeing, which might be manipulative, but this look of concern on her face is to us. He can't see her, so why is she making a fake mask of concern when he can't even see her? Like he's already left the room by this point. So
he saw. Oh yeah, at this point, yeah.
She didn't make the face. Like he never could have seen her face at any point. He shoves her off and walks away without looking at her again. I was very careful to look, and she doesn't make this face till pretty late. So it's interesting.
Been in bed with him, but not trying to have sex with him, and he just woke up having this vision of his mom and it's seeing her, and it's all
no, because the moment
all fear and loathing, you know.
I don't think so, because the moment he comes out of it is when they're having sex. That's like literally, like that's when she transitions to Alice, and she's saying this in this moment will make a son.
Could he have been lying there asleep having this dream, and she gets on top of him, starts sleeping with him, he wakes up, and it's like he segued smoothly into this.
Well, then how is Alice still there when he leaves the room?
No, that's what I mean, is that he pushes her aside.
Oh.
And so, like, he wakes up to her having raped him by, like, tricking him into thinking, like, basically either tricking him, which, yes, that is that, or via him just having been asleep, and she, like, gets it through his dreams laying there, you know.
So she knows he's seeing something and is just playing it off like, oh, what did you see? Like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, but she knows he's
on?
Seeing something.
Yeah, because he becomes turned off, she has to say something. Yeah, that could be it. It's definitely confusing. It's definitely meant to be ambiguous. Yeah. It's definitely hard to tell. You know, I think they've definitely accomplished that much.
I felt as I was watching it that this is his mind. Now, his mind could still come through her, or she could interpret or whatever. But I'm almost certain, double check me, but in the behind the scenes, they called this a dream. They said that Aemon was dreaming.
Yes, I mean,
still could get blurred with reality and Harrenhal weirdness, and you know.
But I think that's still dreaming and woke up to being someone sleeping with him, someone having sex with him or riding him. It's not really clear, I guess, if the point being she's on top of him riding him.
I definitely considered the same thing, that from the moment he's on his back, that it could be that maybe shows he's a dream, because it becomes he wakes up and tosses her off, and then he's off, and then he sees his mother like 2 minutes later, who's just arrived, and starts saying some of the same things, which could be like he was dreaming of what she was about to come and tell him, which is the kind of dream that Harrenhal could put in your brain, similar to Daemon's dreams in a way. In fact, good time to shout out an email from listener Katie and her listening buddy Grayson the cat, who mentioned this much earlier in the season, that there were some parallels probably coming with Daemon and his Harrenhal dreams and Aemon's experiences there. Because Daemon also had a dream where he's with a woman, only to discover that it's his own mother. He freaks out. Here it's the opposite. Aemon is like, yay, I'm screwing my mom. And then when it becomes a not incestuous situation, he's like, So... yeah, I it's interesting that they call it a dream in the behind the scenes. That is very telling. I was leaning against it being a dream, but if they say it is, then I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
Even the word dream can have a lot of different uses, kind of like Aemon is burning, can have a lot of different meanings. Your dream is like something you want to happen, or something that's happened while you're asleep, something that's maybe hazy or fantasy, right? Dream has a lot of meanings. And we know Harrenhal has all kinds of unusual supernatural stuff going on, as does Alice. So these things could all converge in a way that he's quasi-dreaming, she's quasi-manipulating him, Harrenhal's quasi-giving him the insight that his mother's on the way. Like, why did he have this dream at this moment? And in Alice, it shows up, right? There's some sort of premonition happening, whether it's Harrenhal or Alice or whatever it is. You know?
I think you're underselling it to say quasi-manipulating, but yeah. I think definitely manipulating, 100% manipulating.
Remember Helena's tapestry. It shows Alice very unambiguously. Serpent-haired, tentacles and all that. Yeah. So I agree. So yeah, I think having the whole thing cast as a dream is pretty cool. Either way, the whole thing is neat, no matter how you envision it or interpret it. And he's so confused. He stalks off, and yes, Alicent is actually there and starts to say some of the very same things that she said to him in his dream state. And at one point he grabs her and is like checking her hair, and she's like, did I insult you? And she's like, no, never mind. just checking, you know. And then she responds to that by saying, "You're all I have left." And then he's like, that the vision just said that to me. And so Alicent is also confused. Like, why would he react like that to me saying that? Normally he responds very well to these, you know, "You're really important. I need you. I'm your mother and you're important to me." That's usually something he responds to very positively. So she's like, that's strange. But, you know, she doesn't stop with her persistence there. Next, we have the assassin's assassination. That's definitely played out in a way that I don't think anyone predicted. Alicent praises Sir Adrian's loyalty, like saying, "Yeah, this guy saved me from all these things." It's like, yeah, this is my protector. She's talking about all the good things he did. Aemon comes out there and is thankful, you know. He probably is thankful, but, you know, there's greater considerations, I suppose, quote unquote. I guess Sir Adrian was just a touch too noble. I think a lot of us were probably waiting. He could have just pulled out his sword right there before Aemon did anything and killed him first. But I just don't think, as a Knight of the Kingsguard, I don't think he wanted to kill Aemon in front of his own mother. You know, I don't think he wanted to do that in front of Alicent. Either way,
he also might have could tell that Aemon was prepared. He's standing there with his freaking sword and daggers. Like, this might not be the moment to get him, you know. And I also wonder if Aemon was sizing this guy up. Like, yeah. I don't know if I could draw my sword and fight this guy. I think I have to be sneaky, because I did have the thought that Aemon's just going to kill this guy as soon as he sees him. But then I was like, well, maybe we just saw him struggle a little with his sword. He's holding out his hand. Like, all right, maybe they're going to drag this tension on for a little while and find the right. Nope. It was a shocking moment.
I like the directing here. You have Alicent sort of watching their hands and their sword hilts. She's like this. Yeah, she's kind of looking down. She's a little uncomfortable. This really fooled me in the preview. I thought Alicent might have been observing Alice and Aemon get married, which I'm not saying that's going to happen, but obviously they're talking about having children and a line of unsullied kings and all this. And it's like, well, how are you going to have a line of unsullied kings if they're born out of wedlock? Westeros kind of cares about that, you know? So it definitely added up. At the last minute, when I was looking at it again, I could sort of see his sword hilt there. Like, it was like, I was like, maybe that's just whoever the person with Alicent is, the so-called assassin. And it was like, that is who it turned out to be. Either way, it was very hard to predict. And I thought it was kind of a neat way that he's like, yeah, there's too many secrets here. He's talking about the dragon eggs. He's talking about the power. He's talking about himself. And I think there's more to it, though. It isn't just that he wants to protect the secrets. He wants to make sure she stays there. She just got through saying, oh, he protected me here. I could not have gotten here without him. Well, you're not leaving without him either, are you? Which, of course, is going to matter given the poisoning attempt. But we'll talk about that in a minute. What do you have to say about this one, Sean?
A couple things. One, kind of a joke, but, you need a witness for a wedding. And the only person left in Harrenhal is the blind butter churner, so...
That's a good point.
Also, you know how a lot of times people tend to see in others what's in themselves, right? Like, the person who's honest all the time is shocked when they found out someone lied to them. And the person who lies all the time is suspicious that everyone else is lying to them. So, in the same way, Aemon calls Alice out for wanting him for herself, he wants Alicent for himself too, right? Like, oh, this guy, he's your friend, he's your protector. Oh, screw this guy, I'm your friend, I'm your protector, right?
Yeah, I think that saved him. I don't think it was completely just like, oh, this guy could kill me. He was just like, yeah, what you said is this is someone that can take her away. It's a protector for her. All of these things. I will think it's really funny to me that Rhaenyra gotten rid of another Kingsguard. How many Kingsguard is she gonna have gone through? Which is crazy. Also, yeah, this guy Adrian Redfort. We saw another Redfort this episode, which was cool. Jessamine Redfort. And I want to refer to the name that I see him called all the time on social media. No hate to the actor at all. It's just a funny name. Harwin Weak. Because he just failed. He just keeps, he's failed multiple times. And he's not quite Harwin strong. Harwin Weak.
And he goes to this castle, and Harrenhal's like, this is the house. This is the place of House Strong. You do not belong here. No, he did a good job. Yeah, that is funny. That's kind of a funny name. I mean, you can't all be as strong as Harwin, right? It's not shameful to be weaker than the strongest man, right? Yeah, that was very well done. Like, Aemon's logic here is like, you don't see it coming, but then it's like, oh yeah, Which is what you've said, Sean, a lot of times. That's a good sign of good writing. You don't see it coming, but as soon as he does it, you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of reasons for him to do that. And that was pretty clever in terms of the writing. So yeah, so she's there now. Let's move forward to my dinner with Alice. One of two scenes I have nicknamed that in that fashion. Hi, my name is Aemon. This is my mother, Alicent, and this is my other mother, Alice. Yes. There's a lot going on in this scene, a lot of subtext. Some of it seems just like a new couple arguing or an old couple arguing or a helicopter parent or, yeah, there's a lot of fun things here. There's a lot of manipulation. Both of them are trying to manipulate Aemon, and they both know that the other knows it. And Aemon wants them both there, despite how much they don't want the other there. So now
Aemon also doesn't want either of them to manipulate him, despite knowing that they are.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So the way that
I could say real quick, if I could say, because this is another thought earlier on Aemon killing that guy, is it here's another person who's going to try to tell me what to do. Like, I'm already tending with Alice and now my mom. This guy, I'm not going to deal with this guy.
That's funny. So Alicent, at the moment, like later she comes up with another plan to kill Aemon. At this point, though, when they're having dinner, she's like, well, that's off the table. But then when the way the dinner plays out and the things she hears, she's like, oh, it's back on the table. I do have to kill this kid. I do have to kill my own son. It is like dark comedy. But in between her thinking he's going to be killed by Adrian and deciding she's got to do it herself, she's like, well, who is this woman? She becomes like, who is this man, or woman that my child is seeing? It's pretty funny. But it's not just the protective instincts. What's that?
You know, Aemon's a little smiley here.
He is a little smiley here. He likes them kind of fighting over him.
Yeah, he does.
He likes it a lot.
It is. Can I say a couple quick things here? It is interesting. Alicent shouldn't care who this woman is, right? She's about to literally kill her own son. What difference does it make to who this woman is? But now, to be fair, maybe there are some things. Maybe
like she has given. I think she's not. I don't think she's thinking that anymore at this point. Yeah. But yeah,
and it does make sense that she's curious and taken aback. But what I thought was really interesting, the thing I was really getting out of this, is that Alicent just can't conceive of a woman having her own agency. She just can't. Wait, she's not someone's wife. She's not someone's daughter. She's not who is she? I don't understand. She just couldn't understand. She's just a woman who made her own decision, who's taking care of it. It's just not in the realm of reality to her. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the scene when Rhaenys was like, have you ever thought about yourself on the throne? You know, it's a little bit different angle, but just something that Alicent, just the nature of this society, has raised a woman who cannot consider a woman being independent.
That's a great way to look at it. I totally agree. And I think that does sort of put her off her game a little bit because she gets mad. Like, she's not... Normally, Alicent has, like, court decorum. She's very, like, she's pretty controlled. Like, sometimes she loses it with Rhaenyra because of the desperation, because they're so close and they've known each other a long time. It's different. But yeah. But it isn't just, like, the mother's instincts, the woman that does her own thing. She's also thinking dynastically here, because even if Aemon is killed, maybe this woman is now carrying her child, and that is a huge problem for the whole purpose, which is trying to stop this war, trying to create peace, and making a life for Helaena that has a future, right? Which she's given up on Aemon, but if Aemon has some children or a child, like that can make the whole thing start back up again. So Alicent is a bit tongue-tied here. She is hoisted by her own petard a bit because she did tell him to go here and make it his seat. He's like, you told me to do. She's like, God dang it, I did say that, didn't I? It's like, gosh, stupid. Well, you did say you'd have Daemon's head on a pike too. You don't have that, but you know, I won't mention that because Aemon doesn't like being mocked. But so she says, Aemon, I still don't understand who this woman is. Like you say, Sean, like, who is this person? And they're very careful to keep the camera on Alice for a lot of what Aemon says. He says a lady, which she kind of likes that part, and a maester of sorts, which has been said about her many times. I don't really think she likes being called that. I don't think she had a great reaction to that one, but she does like the lady title, of course, and especially when it says his lady, she likes that part. And then when he goes off on his diatribe about Rhaenyra and saying her dragons are ridden by commoners, this is where the man needs to look at himself in a mirror a little bit, and Alice takes a sip of her wine, has like a knowing look. She slow drinks when he says that. Like, This guy. Basically, do you realize, again, if you're not married to Alice and having kids with her, is she a commoner? Maybe, maybe not. In the book, she is explicitly, though not 100% confirmed, to be a bastard of House Strong. Now, Alice would be a very silly person to bring that up to Aemond, who hates that house. So it's not going to come up in this context. So if she isn't common-born, she can't say otherwise. If she is common-born, he just insulted her, said, her dragon riders. Like, aren't you going to have children with me that we talked about them being dragon riders? So what's with...
It's like
I know we're
one
going
of
to
those.
get to it, but
I was gonna say it's like one of those couples where they're together for months, or they get really far along, and they're like, "Wait, what's your last name? What's your middle name?" Like they don't know some really basic thing about each other.
it's a couple parallels going on here. The slow drinking compared to Mysaria at the council meeting, and also the putting your shoe in your mouth. I feel like Ormond knew what he was doing, but when he's talking about Targaryens to Corlys, like, "Oh, well, your wife. That's right, yeah."
Yeah, that one was
you're talking about.
That one was kind of on purpose. Yeah. So he continues by saying, "She sows the seeds of her own ruin. She'll certainly fail, and we will raise our own throne in the mud of the Riverlands." And he goes and looks at Alice and holds her hand, and a new dawn is coming, a new line of unsullied kings. We need only to bide our time. Just real quick clarification, of course, has nothing to do with the Unsullied from the Slaver's Bay, completely different context. They're castrated and can't procreate, which actually kind of makes it more like Aegon II. He's kind of, if he were ever to get back on the throne, he'd be the Unsullied king, because, yeah, his private parts are completely obliterated, as we like to say, in It's Always Sunny verse. So, but, yeah, he's trying to have children out of wedlock and or with a common-born woman, so he's really just talking both sides out of his mouth here, and that's just making Alicent all the more confused, on top of everything else. Not only is everything Aemond is saying just this grand plan to go everything against what Alicent is trying to accomplish, like, I'm trying to create peace, and you're here trying to start a new kingdom and a new dynasty, like, whoa, we're on the wrong opposite pages here. And on top of everything else he says, hang on. Everything else he says, and you will wait with us. You have worth yet to offer. So he basically tells her, oh, you're staying. Not only did I confirm that indirectly by killing your protector, but I'm going to say it out front here. You're staying.
It's also another parallel to Daemon. Rhaenyra is just trying to like run the city, and Daemon's like, let's go take over Essos, right? Like Aemon and Daemon both still have this grand ambition beyond the reality of what's happening right now in front of them. Also, if I could continue the Sunny universe, I wish that when Alicent asked Aemon who this woman was, he had said, oh, she offered me an egg in these trying times.
She did offer him several eggs in these trying times. So Alice tries to divert away from that. This is where the feuding comes back into it. She says, surely your mother will want to move on, perhaps to Old Town, and talking about the climate and how the air doesn't agree with her. And she's not against that. She's like, yeah, I would like to move on, actually. That's one thing they kind of agree on. But Aemon's like, nah, no. He says,
the bats alone.
The bats alone. He says, there's nothing for her there. You know, I'm all she has left. And Alicent's like, well, there is Helaena. And he just goes, no. He just blurts it out, no, like forcefully. So that was like, oh boy, I'm really stuck here. What has Rhaenyra done to me by sending me here to kill my own son? So Alice liked some of what Aemon was saying in this conversation, very much not others. Alicent hated all of it, except for the part about her leaving, maybe, but that got shut down. So she can see all this playing out, just how deep Alice has her hooks in her son. And that's is part of why she's like, yeah, man, I do have to get back to this whole killing him thing, even though I don't have a person to do that, even though I don't have this killer to do that with. So this opportunity comes when Alice and Aemond go off to speak alone. Alice wants to talk to him, and she's like, we're out of wood. She says it very, like, aggravatingly, like she's trying to be nagging on purpose, and it works. He hurls his plate.
Can I say something? What this scene reminded me of, that beat with Aemond. One of my favorite scenes in Wet Hot American Summer has Paul Rudd's character, like, having, like, a little, like, and he, like, knocks his, like, plate, his chair, and it, like, goes on for so long. I was just picturing Aemond basically as Paul Rudd, as Andy or whatever in Wet Hot American Summer, my favorite comedy movie, and so yeah, little brat, but it really emphasized the awkward family dinner of it all. The mother-in-law comes to see like how bad this couple actually is, and then she kind of starts to get proven right by them like being dysfunctional and fighting at the end. But it was for a purpose. It was to get him alone. She was doing it just to be like, okay, well, I need to talk to you solo.
And it worked, and that little conversation was interesting. He says he's mad. He says, I will not be coddled. And they really lean into the sound of the axe. There's like really heavy whooshing and thunking sounds. Like, ooh, he is mad. That axe is going off. And she says, your mother was not part of my design for our future. And he says, you want me all to yourself. And she doesn't really deny that. In fact, she just says, your mother's here to do some ill. And he's like, keep your dark thoughts to yourself. And she says, you Targaryen boys all want the same things, don't you? That made me laugh. I don't love when they use real world idioms like that, but it was really funny. It's also cutting. It's not quite mockery, but it is sort of touching on a little bit of a weakness. And it's a good example. And there's many of them throughout the scenes of Alicent and Aemon where she knows exactly how to get a rise out of him without going too far, just enough to get him to a certain state where she can have an additional conversation or push things a little further. I imagine we'll see some more of this. Then we go to Sir Adrian's body. This is the foolish boy scene. Now she's like, okay, I do have to kill him. Like, I don't know. This dude's crazy. He's even crazier than he was before. He's talking about making more babies and dragon riders and all sorts of crazy stuff. So she's too weak to even pull the sword out, which is just like, what am I even going to do? I can't even get the sword out of the guy's hand.
Do you think
like,
that's
let
what
alone...
it was? Huh? I thought she just second guessed it. I thought she was like, "What? This isn't realistic. I can't use this."
It could be. No, I think she was trying to pull it off of him. And then she looks
at the dagger and like, I guess I thought she like looked at it and like then realized as she did it how unwieldy it would be, that she could have gotten it.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I agree that she could have tried harder and gotten it out, and then she realized that no, like, what am I going to do? Attack him with a sword? Like, he's going to see that? Like, that won't. So she goes for the smaller weapon, and then she starts to think about that, and even that's like, I don't even know if I can do this. And then she sees the Nightshade.
Can I say real quick?
She had some great acting here. I feel bad I didn't mention Olivia Cook as Alicent in this episode, because she did have some, just like her big wide eyes as she looks at everything. The hand on her head, and she's like, "Oh God,
she has
what
an
am I gonna
extremely
do?"
expressive face.
Yeah, she
really
does. She was very good this episode.
So with Helaena earlier, in that prior episode, when she made the comment to Jaehaera about the Nightshade, and then later we saw she had that caterpillar in the room and wanted to go see the moon. And then we start this episode off with her visions of escaping. I suspected that she was going to use poison to get past a guard or something like that. Now I realize what they were setting up. It wasn't for something for Helaena. It was something for Alicent.
Yeah, we were all pretty much fooled by that, I think. We took that. We did not expect it to be Alicent the one to use the poison. Like, we talked about that in the preview episode. Like, where is this going? I don't think anyone mentioned Alicent. None of us did, anyway. So she brings him the spiced wine and frames it in his childhood. Clever. Alicent is a great liar. I would love to go through all of her lies throughout the entire show. There's a lot of them. She may have told the most lies of anyone, which is saying something, but that's partly because she's also one of the most featured characters.
It also looks weird, wildly suspicious, I have to say. You see her come in holding these two cups, and then she continues to press it upon him and lift it up. You say she's a good liar, but she does not have a great poker face in this particular instance.
No, she doesn't
at all. But Aemon is desperate to trust her. And he wants to so
Alice
bad.
Just calls him idiot later, just to make your point for you, which I agree with. Anyone else would have seen it coming from anyone else, but not Aemon from his own mother. He's just, like you said, he's just simply unwilling to mistrust her. Until now, perhaps. This is ooh boy, how is he now the one person he really thought he could trust? And he can't. Alice is proven right. I don't know. That's bad. It's kind of it's not quite as bad as Daemon being like, see, I told you we should have just burned them all, but it is in that same sort of category of the wrong person being right.
Or Mysaria saying, see, I told you he was lying.
Yeah, which she pushed too far. I thought it was a really interesting the way they handled that, but we'll talk about that separately. But she was trying to do something similar there. So The conversation doesn't quite end with this, though. Of course, there's more going on here before he goes to find Alice for help. She says, look, Alice wants me gone. I should go. And she's like, no, I want you here. I'm glad you came. And he admits that he tried to kill Aegon and begins to weep. And she asks him, who do you trust? And then poisons him. God, it's so bad. She calls him fool. Yes, you foolish boy, because of the thing about Aegon. And as she's handing him poison that he really should have seen coming if circumstances were different. So yeah, it's all just very sad. It's tragic, but also believable.
The screen cuts to black. Allison poisons Aemon.
Yeah. So yeah, and the way Alice says it, she's like, idiot. She doesn't seem concerned at all. She's like, I know all the common poisons. This is a common poison. So she's
antidotes.
Yeah, she's like, I got this. Like, she's not worried about it. She doesn't have any concern. And I don't think we're meant to have concern. I don't think we're meant to even think for a second that Aemond is going to die. I think we're meant to think, oh God, what's he going to do now that his mother tried to kill him? You know?
Not only does she know the common poisons, but this one's growing on Harrenhal's grounds, there.
Yeah, she's gonna know it extremely. She probably guesses it first. She's like, well, it could be this, or this. It's probably this. It's probably Nightshade. Yeah, it was. I love that the owl was there. Yay, owless rivers. So yeah, I don't think even the most casual show fans are probably like, he's not gonna die, is he? But yeah, the dark thoughts that she told Alice to put away, his will be 10 times worse, I think, because before she came, he was weepy and depressed and like, I've been forsaken. The one person he cared about the most shows up and she tried to kill him. It's just the worst thing that could happen to him. So, boy, the things he can do in response to this, who knows? Major cliffhangers there. What do you think about all that, Sean?
Well, I want to say, are you guys also just like, what's Allison's journey going to be like as she rides away? We just heard Kat talk about how dangerous it is for
and she talked about it herself. Well, okay, yeah. I'll give my thoughts on that on Friday because they could get a little spoilery, even though this isn't a book plot. But Sean, you should weigh in on that.
I do have a thought on that. Most of my other thoughts here have been covered, but I specifically thought about this and even went back and watched. She was with at least 3 other people on the way there. So I think there's some camp nearby where there's someone waiting. Now, it still might be dangerous to get there. Still might be dangerous to get back. I don't know what the heck she's going to tell Rhaenyra. But I don't think that she's just wandering in the woods by herself, at least not for far. I guess maybe she...
That makes a lot of sense. You're right. There was like a group there. It wasn't just her agent. You couldn't see who they were, but I remember in retrospect, I thought that was maybe just her leaving and they were just escorting her like to the castle ground, like off away from the city, and then they would turn back. But you're right. There was a group. Yeah. A good call. Okay.
I don't expect... Oh, go ahead.
Someone in the comments, Troms 2007 said, watch her run into Larry Strong on the road.
Oh, God. Awesome. Oh,
he might be headed back. Totally where's he going?
That might be getting set up. It's a funny thought, but I think it's a legitimate potential. In my mind, they might give us a quick cut scene of her just linking up with the other guys in the woods, saying it is done, and they ride back. And then I imagine she gets to King's Landing, tells Rhaenyra that Aemond is dead, but then we're going to find out Aemond's not dead. Rhaenyra will feel extra betrayed by Alicent. That's kind of where I was projecting this going. But yeah, I didn't consider the potential for her running into Larys, which is, I half joke, but could be very interesting.
Yeah, that would be something. Larys being like, God, I should have just stayed one more scene. I could have been a hero. But more, we'll get to that. Yeah. Last chance to vote for us for the Hugo Awards. The final voting is August 8th here in 2026. We are hoping to be a Hugo a winner, be able to announce that in just later this month, and either way we'll be very happy to consider ourselves nominated for this award. It's an honor, but if we could win, all the better, and you all can help with that. Go to our website or just check the description of the episode. We have a lot of ways to link to that.
Can I say?
Go ahead, Shay.
You can go to lacon.org/register to do that. I also want to just give a brief mention that we will be in the UK from August 13th to 20th. We're going to the Mad King play August 14th and 15th. We will cover it after. If you're in the UK, in the London to Birmingham area, and want to meet up for anything, email us. WesteroShistory@gmail.com is probably the simplest way, and we'll see, if it works out. We're certainly going to do some sightseeing type things.
Damn right. That's right. Also, let us know if you'll be at DragonCon. That'll be every year, but that's coming up next month, too, or almost around the same time. So we at History of Westeros have a very busy next month, considering we're also going to see the Mad King play, and on top of all these other things we just mentioned. So
when is Worldcon? That's in Anaheim?
Yeah. That'll be the 20th. We'll be there from the 25th to the 31st. The Hugo Awards are August 30th, Sunday, August 30th. So yeah, we'll also be in California if you'd like to. We'll be busy at Worldcon, so if you want to see us at Worldcon, you should come to Worldcon. We're running actually A Song of Ice and Fire meetup Friday at 3 p.m. at Worldcon, and I'm on a panel Thursday at 3 p.m. How does internet architecture shape fandom behavior? So you can check us out there, or just meet us hanging around.
Before we get back into the meat of the episode, we talked about the sipping of wine at key moments. We pointed out that Mysaria had one when Torrhen mentioned being a scapegoat. Alice had several in that dinner. Ulf had a sip at the end of his decent ale, but Corlys had the sip that never was. He refused to drink with the Hightowers, just like he refused to drink with Otto Hightower in one of the very first scenes of the entire show, season 1, episode 1. I'm not sure it was about Otto Hightower. He just refused to drink when they were having their succession discussion during the very first episode. He put his hand over his cup at that moment too.
I read that to be like, I want to stay sober. This isn't a party for me, right? Yeah. Viserys is goofing off, eating an egg. Everyone's drinking wine. No, we have to talk about serious things here.
It's serious business to eat an egg.
I agree. That one was more about business than just partying. This one was about I won't drink with you.
It might have been fear of being poisoned too. I didn't take note if he ate any food or not.
No, I don't think it was that, because
I guess they could just kill him if they wanted.
Exactly. Corlys even said that. He's like, "What are you doing here? Are you just kind of making fun of me before you kill me?" And he's like, "No, we're gonna try to keep you around for a while." So yeah, I don't. It's possible, but no, I think it's just like everything else. He was like, I am not giving you an inch here. I will not entertain the idea of making you an ally. I hate you. He does hate Hightowers. Like, Corlys has hated Hightowers for a long time. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the various things pertaining to Rhaenyra's reign. There's a lot of different locations. We started with Helaena, but we can now move on to the rest of the Red Keep and King's Landing plot lines, which include side trips of her council and kin, like this one, which was very cool to see beginning. The flight of Caraxes to the Vale there, landing on the Eyrie. It looks so cool, very cinematic. A lot of amazing dragon scenes in this episode. Perhaps it might be the best of all the episodes for dragon scenes. It's up there.
I think it had some of the best lighting for the dragons. I feel like so often, even when we see a lot of dragons, it's night or it's dark or I don't know what, but I felt like I saw them in their full glory, vibrant, in like broad daylight more often.
That's a good point. Maybe they took those complaints because people have criticized that.
Yeah, sometimes they've been in the dragon pits or flying through clouds or in a distance, but yeah, we got a lot of full daylight up close views.
Also, Caraxes looks so goofy and silly.
The long
Just
body,
the funniest looking dragon. I know this shot I have here, long dragon.
This is a dachshund of dragons for sure. He racks up significant frequent flyer miles. Maybe Daemon can convert those points into money for the gold cloaks. It's a quick scene. Daemon flies up and barges through the door, and it still manages to become non-threatening. He's like, "Look, yeah, I'm not being aggressive. I'm being pushy," but he stands at the foot of the moon door, which is like the most surefire way to show that you're not here to hurt anybody. Like, I'm standing right on the edge of a precipice here, yo. So it's like a sort of a way to be humble but he can still be Daemon Targaryen, which of course is made more prominent when he says please haltingly there.
I thought it was like, nothing scares me. I fly out here. I can stand right at the moon door and I'm not afraid at all of this.
There's that too, yeah. I think there's a lot of things going on in that. He's standing before her. It's a way to not be threatening but to still be demanding and allowing her, not being afraid. Yeah, it's all that, I think. I think that's a good point. So they argue briefly, but there's nothing to be done. He says, why didn't you imprison her? And he says, well, and why did she even need to do this? She begged me to be forgotten about. And Jane says, well, I guess she changed her mind. And how do you force dragon riders to do things that you don't want? Now, she's being a little deceptive about that because she captured Rhaena one time already. However, there was probably a lot of risk in doing that. We already saw later in this episode just making an aggressive walk towards Rhaena can get Sheepstealer upset. So there is some truth to it as well. Like, Sheepstealer almost torched Daemon because he needed to walk a little more softly.
Yeah, Rhaena's got her scary dog privilege, her scary dragon privilege, as they say, you know?
Yeah.
These are slight digs at Daemon, too. Like, I can't get, whenever she says Dragon Rider, she's partly referring to him, like, hey, what do you expect me to get a Dragon Rider to do what I want? But
you just
also,
barged in here and passed my guards.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed
But also, he can't get Rhaenyra to do what he wants. He can't
That's
get
true.
the woman riding a dragon to do what he wants either.
You
So what do
can't get her to
expect
burn
from me?
Tumbleton. You're right. She says talk has become rife, talk of a dragon rider living amongst nettles and sheep. So they did the little name drop there for her alternate character, that partly storyline version, Ray Nettles, etc. But the bottom line is that, yeah, there's just too much rumor now, and Rhaenyra is going to hear about it, and there's no way around that now. Way too many people are talking about it, so she needs to come clean or it'll be worse. And Daemon says, hey, give me a day, please. And yeah, only his daughter could make him say please, I think. And his wife, his family. That's part of the character growth I was referring to. I think he wouldn't be doing these things. These things are not about his personal gain. He's putting a lot of effort into things that have nothing to do with his personal gain or his ambitions. That's part of where I think the growth is perhaps reflected. None of this effort is for his own benefit. It's to save himself perhaps from consequences, but he pretty clearly proves that he's more concerned about consequences to Rhaena, especially the way he handles the scene later, as we'll see. Ashea pointed out Jessamine Redfort in this scene. Kind of a funny shot here. Look at this. Look at Lady Jane is looking right into the camera.
Yeah, Jane's like, yeah, you guys thought I didn't pull? You thought I had no one? Look at this. No. But yeah, you notice like the guard was there at the door because she is, you know, I just want some privacy while she has her lover on her lap, right? But he, you know, does just barge in and see it. I think it is kind of an open secret, but
Yeah,
certainly somewhat scandalous. And I think it's cool to have seen Jessamine Redford in the same episode. We see Adrian Redford, unknown relation, but probably cousin or a brother or
yeah, they
something.
could be siblings.
They could be siblings, exactly. So I probably most likely siblings, really. Similar ages. But yeah, I thought it was cool to see Jessamine. We'll talk about that in the preview stream. But yeah, this is a known character and relationship in the book. But also cool for this to happen in the Rhaenyra Mysaria episode, you know, to see these two different like rulers and their paramours.
Also, think about this is another person who maybe doesn't quite belong in a throne room being brought in, kind of like Mysaria brought Sylvia in.
No, she's a noble.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a Redfort. She's this. Remember, we just
Maybe
said she's
belongs in the
she's
room,
not
but
as
maybe
high.
not on that throne.
sure. That's
yeah,
fair.
I mean, I don't think anyone's supposed to sit in her lap on the throne besides little Robert Arryn, which is the other thing it makes you think of is Lysa Arryn sitting with Robert Arryn in Game of Thrones on her lap there, you know? Anyways.
Okay, so Fair Market. Let's go to Fair Market. Baela and Adam remain exhausted on their search for Vhagar, but find Sheepstealer instead. And of course, this scene is pivoted to by Lady Jane pointing out that was the last place that Sheepstealer had been seen. So this all is kind of triangulated. Now, before they see Sheepstealer, there's a little bit of a conversation. Baela brings up again how she's unhappy and exhausted, and she uses interesting language. She says she feels like she's being used as a tool, which is notable because Lord Ormond says the exact same thing to Ulf. Says the Queen is just using you as a tool. Adam brings up the legitimization issue for purposes of not for necessarily status, but for marrying. You got to have the right title to marry the right person, things. And he seems to be hinting at her. Baela does not get that and brings up Alan. Is like, oh, you spoke with your brother. And he's like, wait, what? And but before the awkwardness can fully...
Here's where I get to say, you were right, Aziz. Although I still think Adam isn't such a person that you weren't even saying that he would have a great conflict with it because he is very good-natured. Yeah. But you could tell he is crestfallen and disappointed in his acting.
Absolutely, yeah. So the awkwardness is muted by the appearance of Sheepstealer. The dragons look away. There's some dragon calling, and they're like, what? Now, our friend Meg thinks you can see dragon poop in this scene. I looked around for it. I'm not quite sure I can see it, but... I'll have you all know I went looking for dragon poop.
You know if you could smell it.
That's true. I would know if I could smell it. It smells like burning. Well, yeah. It just smells like burning, yeah. So Adam says, is that Vhagar? But Baela knows the dragons better. Baela saw Sheep Stealer more up close during the battle, got real close to it, and
she would know Vhagar better too, right?
You're right. She would know both of them better.
She knows Vhagar very well. That was her mother's dragon, so she grew up with Vhagar.
Yeah.
Vhagar was like, the family van. Like, their SUV. Like, that was Vhagar in her life. She got probably thinks pretty fondly of Vhagar. It's probably a weird experience for her to have to turn on Vhagar.
That's really funny. This is followed up by the scene at the small council, which is going to connect to this one. I like how these few scenes in a row all have this nice connective tissue to each other, kind of keeps the pacing going. While at the same time, this episode also has some of the longer scenes of the season where it really, you get more time with certain elements, and I like that a lot too. Anyway, the small council scene opens with Manderly complaining that he's been made into a scapegoat, or scape merman in this case. Mysaria, who suggested doing exactly that, is, of course, sips her wine in this moment. Rhaenyra's like, what do you want me to do about it? It's really a not very leadership thing to say. Not a very good thing to say in general. This is a really
funny scene, though.
But it is a funny scene.
Great faces all around. Very comical. One of those classic small council scenes that, there were some funny green small council scenes.
There were. Baby. We talked about the one with Tylan and Aegon's baby and all the other stuff. Yeah. There have been some. It's not always a place of decorum, especially when people are getting murdered. So his finger. Yeah, this is comedic. He's like, but wait. He's like, hold on. We weren't done talking about me. I have a reputation to uphold. And she's, well, what have you done about the problem? He tried to turn it around on him. He's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I tried to raise taxes and you guys ignored me. And he's like, this doesn't have to be a tax on the little people. We could tax rich people if you want, but you won't even let me talk about it. He doesn't even get to say that much. And then she ignores that. And he just throws his hands up in frustration, like, what the hell, man? Like, we're not even going to talk about it. He talks about how his daughter found filth at the door. There's people are protesting him. This could get a lot worse without resolution. However, though Rhaenyra's leadership is severely lacking, it's not that she's just expecting all this to just take care of itself. She's expecting that once Tumbleton is taken care of, a lot of this will become a lot easier to deal with. Gold cloaks will stop dying. Food and money will be less scarce. That is a reasonable expectation, and the army is almost there. But there's a lot of mentions about how maybe this candle is burning faster than she thinks it is, and maybe the damage is going to be more long-term, if not permanent. So, and obviously she's not handling it well in terms of getting over that hump. She's saying things like, what do you expect me to do about it? Which is just, that's terrible leadership. No one wants to see that.
Also, he was put in position as a scapegoat.
yeah, he's right, too.
There's that little detail.
Yeah, a very important detail where she openly did that, yes. Just as Daemon wonders Daeron is going to later opine to Ormond, how is Chaos in King's Landing going to save us from the Winterwolves? This question could be asked here. How are the Winterwolves and Riverlords going to save them for these internal problems? Because killing Ormond, even if you can pull that off, is not going to be enough. That won't make all the problems go away. It will maybe stop the thing that's making the problems worse, but Ormond didn't create those problems. He exacerbated all of them. He didn't create a single one of them.
Yeah, the Gold Cloaks weren't getting paid whether or not Ormond started killing them. Right?
That's right. Exactly right. Nor were the issues with the faith of his creation, or the issues with the lack of tallow and just shipping from before. That's the taxation and merchant business. That was all about the Triarchy. And yeah, Ormond didn't have anything to do with that. So one person has been on Manderly's side, sort of his buddy there, is Lady Sabbatha Frey, and she looks like she's going to be leaving because Rhaenyra, as a way of dealing with her, just says, fine, just go take it. Maybe my plan to send Sir Adrian isn't going to work. We haven't heard back from Alicent. Maybe you'll kill Aemon for me. Just take the castle. That'll be useful to me. she just doesn't want to hear about it anymore.
Sabbath's thrilled. She just lights up. What a funny beat too. She's like, okay, great. I have carte blanche to go just take Harrenhal. It's mine.
She's like, that I will do. Yeah.
Which you can't imagine how that's going to go with Sabbatha showing up to meet Aemond and Alice, assuming they're still there, because that is their plan, is to hold up there. So it seems to be at conflict.
Is Vhagar going to be back by then?
Yeah,
If not, then they're in trouble. If so, then they're in trouble. Yeah.
A couple of things here, despite being unsullied on the Dance of Dragons, I know the Freys don't have Harrenhal in the future, right? Maybe they have it for a segment of time that I don't realize, but also, hopefully, this is a spot where so far, like time, like traveling and distance and time issues, to me, nothing's been too egregious. Some things have been maybe a little questionable, but even those things, I think they weren't completely clear about what the timeline was in a week or whatever could have passed, and it wasn't just clear. But for her to get all the way back to the twins, raise an army, take that army to Harrenhal, that's weeks and weeks, if not months.
I would
right?
say,
so that
I would
can't
guess,
just happen next episode.
Yeah, that should not happen next episode. I agree with you.
Next episode, it would be next season, but I would say she probably has an army raised because of what's happening. They probably started getting something ready. Maybe you shave off a couple weeks or a week there. She still has to travel there and back, and she can send
and she
letters
already
ahead.
expected to be taking it,
but yeah,
right? From before. She may have prepared for
and
that.
And she can send letters ahead. Be ready for me. Meet me partway there. You know what I mean? Like, she can shave off a little time, but still, it'll be next season, not next episode.
Either way, yeah, we both agree with you, Sean, that it should not be next episode, although there's a chance it will be. But I think it'll be next season, yeah.
Unless next episode, Helena's already had her baby, and Alice has already had her baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this scene is also interrupted. It looks like Manderly's about to get frustrated again because she's getting what she wanted, and he's like, well, what about what I want? But Baela and Adam show up, and the notion of Sheepstealer appearing comes to light and becomes the focus. Mysaria has that like thinking sound that they give you when a character, when they're really like in the moment there. We hear that audio that they do sometimes in this case, and she was already suspicious of the head the moment Daemon brought it in the first time, and now this gets her all back to that. Like, and she approaches Rhaenyra and says, "Hey, can you really tell me you had no doubts? And can you really tell me there's nothing you wouldn't think Daemon would do?" So Rhaenyra, rather than giving a straight answer, does what I think is pretty sensible. Decides, well, I'm going to go see for myself. I need to, let me stop having secondhand information. She doesn't exactly trust Mysaria when it comes to Daemon.
I mean, Mysaria grabs her, too, which is the other notable thing. We saw last episode, Alicent grab Rhaenyra and, Kingsguard, reach for their swords. But Mysaria does it. They don't quite react the same way. I mean, she's not a hostage, They don't react as quickly. But Rhaenyra looks down as well, like, how dare you touch my royal person? But I also think that is what triggers later her turning to Mysaria was that physical contact that they had right there. I think that kind of got her mind spinning in a way that when I first saw it, I don't think I took it that way.
It's also similar to Rhaenyra grabbing Helaena, which
you're right. A lot of
and
army
Rhaenyra
grabbing.
Realized herself when she did that, she was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that."
Yeah, that's true.
Mysaria realized it here too. She definitely was like, "Oh, I went too far."
Yes.
Like when she grabbed her, she took back. I think she changed to say my grace or whatever. She realized she had crossed the line with that.
And this is after like she's chased her through the hall. She like follows her as she walks everywhere, like just kind of talking into her ear about this. And I think a way that I would find very frustrating after that when you're just trying to like think things through.
Yeah. Mysaria is clearly not fully rational when it comes to her view of Daemon, even though she's right about a lot of it. And that really comes to a head later when they have their intimate scene, which we'll get to in due time. For now, we have one of the most stressful scenes I've ever seen on television in my entire life. The dragon showdown of sorts. Daemon flies to where he heard Vhagar had been, knowing Sheepstealer would be there, and he finds her. He does this is pretty cool the way he has Caraxes drive Sheepstealer towards the ground, not violently, but like, you need to do what I'm telling you to do here. I have the advantage.
Violently. I think it was violent.
It was aggressive, but it wasn't.
Aggressive. I mean, like,
yeah.
I think
it threatened violence.
Yeah. Not bloody violent, but physical.
Yeah.
Coercion.
It was a nip at the neck,
Was there like, a little bit? Yeah, it was a nip, like not on it, but like it was like it was like, hey, you need to. Yeah. So
kind of like how a cat or another animal would like, have their mouth do like a bite of the neck, but it's not killing. It's not a killing bite.
especially precise for a dragon.
Hey, that was precise. Known for their precision. That's right. But its flames were not, maybe. Yeah. Anyway. And Daemon, we have to remember that Daemon is the most experienced dragon rider of the batch by quite a bit. So there's a little bit of that here too. But he's also so intent that he doesn't heed the wildness of Sheepstealer, which she says, he does not heed me. And as we spoke about before, he has to take a deep breath here. Like, okay, you're right. I'm dealing with a wild dragon here. I did kind of forget that for a minute. And Rhaena comes clean. She says, I was wrong. I thought I could do it, but I can't live like that. It's Miri Mazdur all over again. Saving my life is meaningless, Daenerys, if everything else that I loved in my life is gone and dead. The difference here, of course, is that Rhaena, those things aren't gone. They just aren't accessible to her currently, but they could be. They didn't all die. Like, her family still exists. Baela's still there. Adam Allen, Rhaenyra, everybody is still alive. She just has to, maybe win them back over. And of course, she's doing that by trying to atone. And this really hits Daemon hard. He's already been pointed out to him a few times that he's not been a great father to Rhaena and Baela. And he tries to level with her a bit. He's like, we actually have a lot in common. I was dragonless as a child for a long time too. My mother died young. My father died young. My older brother was lost by their loss. He doesn't actually mention their father dying young, but that did happen too. But he ends with all that very maturely by saying, it's not a reason to be a bad father, though. Like, all that happened to me, it's not a reason for me to be a bad father. I still should have been better to you. And he's also sort of communicating to her. It's like, you also, despite me being a bad father, you also have to be your own person and be a good person. But now, once he fully understands her purpose, he's like, yeah, I can't let you do that alone. Let me help you. Let's fight Vhagar together. Or like, it's super dangerous, but it's what kind of father would leave his daughter to do that alone, right? But that plan is broken up entirely by Seasmoke and Syrax coming. And at first, Rhaena is thinking that Daemon betrayed her, but we know he didn't, not at all. And he tells her, though, but she has no chance of escaping given how close they are. You could not possibly escape via air quickly enough. They're too close. You have to run. And the dragons land and things get tense really quickly. Rhaenyra demands answers. She hasn't yet seen Rhaena, so she's demanding the answers, still thinking the worst, or at least considering the worst as possible. But since she hasn't seen Rhaena, Daemon still won't admit who it is. He's still hoping she can get away, but he doesn't have anything else to say to divert her anger. All he can do is say, call your dragons off. He just nearly pushed it too far, and he's realizing she's now coming in too hot and almost making the same mistake he did. And things are even more tense than when he landed, because there's more dragons, more anger, more confusion, and Sheepstealer could go off at any moment. He's right that calming her down is more important as a priority, but Rhaenyra can't seem to process that. She's too angry. He says, please again, hoping that maybe will reach her, because of all people, she'll know that he doesn't say please very often or ever. Meanwhile, Adam, she did have quite a head start on him, but she's a malnourished young person, and he's an adult who almost outran Dreamfire, or his Seasmoke, when he was being chased.
Like his big introduction, his character was this athletic runner. He was just practicing running and stuff.
Yeah, this guy is, in real life, he is absolutely ripped. So yeah, it all fits. So he carries her back, and Sheepstealer gets more and more upset, but the fact that Adam is holding on to her means Sheepstealer can't really do anything about it without burning them both. Rhaenyra yells out that this is finished, and Rhaena just goes to her knees and is just basically surrendering. Like, yeah, do what you must, because I've given up now. And I kind of appreciate that Syrax makes the first move here, because it's kind of a consistent thing that sometimes the youngest dragons are the most keyed into their owners' or their master's emotions and the most likely to go off. Like we saw Arax attack Vhagar. When Vhagar was he burned him. It was like, don't do that. Keep trying to get away, man. And Luke was like, no. And we all saw how that ended up. And soon enough, the dragons just go at it. Sheepstealer fights back from being burned, gets the upper hand, but Seasmoke comes to help. It's chaotic and there's panic, and Daemon runs to his dragon. Might have saved his life. Almost ended Sheepstealer's. At one point, Seasmoke's tail nearly takes out Rhaenyra, Adam, and Rhaena all at once. That would have been quite a thing to have happen. The action speaks for itself. It is, they said in the behind the scenes, they really were trying to make it more like a Godzilla movie. Whereas the Battle of Rook's Rest was aerial combat. It's very different. Yes, it was probably the next most dragon action we've ever had, but they were all in the air. This is dragons on the ground, and that's just a very different thing.
Yeah, we finished the episode, and I was like, that was like a fist fight, a dragon like duking it out just on the ground. Yeah, it really felt that way. It was, as they put it in the BTS, they're like, it was not graceful, at all.
Not at all, yeah. And people were in danger. Rhaena yells for Sheepstealer as he's being torn apart, and Sheepstealer roars for her as she's being taken away. It's manages to have there's a lot of emotion. It's a great scene in that sense because it's cinematically extremely powerful, makes you feel really tense, at least it did me. And there's a lot of character stuff happening despite the action playing out. It's all happening at once, and that's part of what makes it so tense. So, one more bit, and then I'll let you guys weigh in. Daemon gives the kill order and tells Adam, he still keeps his head. He's still very much a battle commander. Protect the queen. That's the first priority. Sheepstealer's kind of crouched in a defensive position, allowing Caraxes' long neck to make some strikes. But Sheepstealer kind of goes turtle and smacks him with the tail, and Daemon gets the wind knocked out of him and decides, I guess, that he sees Sea Smoke struggling to fly, and might think, well, that's enough, and I don't need my dragon's wings getting ripped apart if...
You mean Sheepstealer, you said Sea Smoke.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've did that 3 times this episode. Confused them. Yes, of course, yes. Took no harm, and I did mean to say that, because Caraxes didn't take any harm, and neither did Sea Smoke. I meant in the whole battle, whereas Syrax and obviously Sheepstealer took a lot. But I think that's part of the reason Daemon changed his mind about chasing Sea Smoke after saying, chasing Sheepstealer after saying he was going to kill him, because first of all, he was the only one that decided to do that. Rhaenyra doesn't like the idea of Sheepstealer being around, but she's never shown concern for the dragon directly. It's only been about the riders. And I think Daemon also realized that actually killing the dragon might get my own dragon really damaged in the process. If not me, let's let it go.
Yeah, I think Daemon, I agree that it was like, oh yeah, escort the queen, protect her. But I feel like there has to have been another element of him that was like, one, then Sea Smoke won't get messed up by Sheepstealer. We got to preserve our dragons and dragon riders. And 3, that he might have even had the inkling then that do I really want to fully kill this dragon? I don't know. He might have still had some doubt at that moment. It's
possible. Reticence. Yeah, he gave the order after Adam flew away. Yeah. So but he doesn't mean he wasn't thinking of. That doesn't mean it was a confident decision in the moment. He may have changed his mind. Yeah,
you're probably mixed. I feel like Daemon has a great reverence and respect for dragons.
Not just for dragons.
So I don't know that he wants to just kill dragons if he doesn't absolutely have to.
Not just that, Rhaenyra's dragon, right? That's still her dragon. He still has some respect for her bond with that dragon, and what's he going to do? Go back and say, all right, daughter, I killed your dragon. The thing that you felt most connected to, the thing you felt you needed to be a complete person, I killed it. I don't know. I think in that moment when he gave the order, it was a little bit more self-defense. Like, this thing's going to kill me or my dragon if I don't. But then he saw that it was incapacitated. It's like, okay, I'm safe. My dragon's safe. I can leave now. And I don't have to tell my daughter I killed her dragon.
Frank Wizza sends a super chat. Great point here. It really shows how the thing being discussed at the beginning of this scene, killing Vhagar, God, how hard would that be? Given how hard it was here. Sheepstealer, I don't know that those were fatal wounds. Wouldn't be surprised if they were, but really wouldn't be surprised if they weren't either. His neck was so armored and thick. It was really bloody and torn up, but I don't know that it was fatal. Those dragons have really, really muscular necks, and they're also really strong, and yeah, I don't know.
Given that Sunfyre is still alive, there's no way it was fatal.
Yeah, but good point.
It was certainly incapacitating. You saw it tried to fight. Multiple times we saw bites on the, I don't know how to say, the shoulder of the wing. Mm-hmm. And it was at one attempt that Sheepstealer made to swoosh up and failed, and it slipped, and it just couldn't fly and dragged itself away. Maybe that will repair over time eventually. But yes, it is another interesting insight we get to the nature of the dragons here. How the size matters. As they get bigger, the size of their bodies and the strength of their armor grows more proportionate or quicker or bigger or whatever proportionate to their jaws. Their mouths can't open wide enough or bite hard enough to just chop the neck in half, right? These are all, I'm going to say, mid-range dragons. Sheepsteel is definitely bigger than Sea Smoke and Cyrax, right? And was somewhat dominating them. But Caraxes was a little bigger, skinnier, so it's not as stout, but still seemed to be dominating Sheepstealer, who maybe was already more wounded or less experienced in battle, right? All these different reasons. But they were all kind of on par. Vhagar would just chop him in half. Vhagar
Quite
is
possibly.
so much bigger, despite not only would its neck be so much bigger and thicker and stronger, they couldn't bite Vhagar in half, but Vagar's mouth is so much bigger and stronger, it could just chomp any of them in half.
I think their best bet is like a big dragon, like a Vermithor or a Sheepstealer, or maybe Caraxes too, attacking Vhagar at the weak points, while a smaller dragon that's nimble distracts Vhagar. You know what I mean? Like,
Maybe taking out the rider. Yeah.
Yeah. If I was like
At least
planning an
2 or
attack on
3.
Vhagar, I would be like, okay, well, we need like a distraction, and then we need something that can actually do the damage.
Right, because you don't have to kill Vhagar, as we've seen. When Vhagar didn't have a rider, she wasn't some menace to society. Daemon even mentions, Aemon mentions, when I was like a long time before I was born, Vhagar would just live near the hills near King's Landing and just chill there, and no one cared. I mean, they cared a little, but it wasn't some big problem.
Also, I think you're right, Ashad, that you need at least 2 or 3, probably at least one big one. And also, probably at least one will die in that process.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Part of the distracting process, part of like, one, attacks blast fire, one like chomps at its neck, and another one can grab its tail and try to drag it down. But in all that, Vhagar is going to just chomp someone in half.
You remember back in season 1 when the Vhagar was claimed by Aemon? The person who took it the most seriously, besides Aemon himself, was Otto. Otto was like, this thing you just did, he just did such a huge thing for our side, and we all see that now. Like the so much strategy and consideration given to this one creature, because it's the proverbial 800-pound gorilla of dragons. Yeah. Sisters reunited. Baela and Rhaena get to have a scene together. It's been quite a while. Rhaena is immediately left in the dragon pit. Rhaenyra doesn't look at her and says, make her a room here. I don't want to see her, and no red keep for you. You got to stay here in the dragon pit, even though you don't have a dragon. It's like, that's not great, but what are you going to do? We get a quick, efficient scene with the two of them, the sisters. Rhaena's falling asleep in her chair as if she's like, I don't deserve a bed. Like, this lady hasn't had a bed in a long time. But she's still not getting into one, because I think she's just like self-punishing herself a little bit. Or maybe that's not even a bedroom, but I think it's a bedroom. I mean, yeah. So
this is like the same area where Baela falls asleep sometimes. She spends a lot of time here because between her fights with Moondancer, I think this is where Baela and Alan kissed, or an adjacent room. It's a similar type of chamber, you know?
I think you're right. Yeah. It makes sense there'd be some quarters like these in the dragon pit. Rhaena apologizes for what she did. First, she apologizes to Baela, but to Jace. And then for losing her station as queen, some of the things that Baela's already mentioned. But Baela just shuts her down quickly and is like, stop apologizing, sister. We will begin anew. You're my sister. And it comes off as very sincere. I think I don't know. I have no reason to doubt her. I mean, that's her sister. There's legitimate hope there. So I will have a little more to say about the preview, but there's some more further theorizing to do, because this is obviously a mashed up character. It could start going the other way, back towards the book version of Rhaena. It could go back towards Nettles in another way. It could be something else entirely. But in an episode where a lot of things are going badly, where a lot of relationships are either fraying or getting darker or getting more manipulative, this one is like refreshing, I think. Like, there's no hint of anything but sincerity from Baela, and no background information to think otherwise, and Rhaena really needed it, right?
I was so relieved to see that Rhaena finally had a brush for her hair to pick it out a little bit there. It looks a little bit more kept and even, because it was looking real rough. I almost wonder if all she had to do was brush it out, or if she actually got scissors and trimmed it now that she had off, because it was so uneven and burnt, right? So it was very uneven.
I wonder, this might be unrealistic or optimistic, but given the nature of how they seem to have merged these characters, and that Rhaena is maybe being again given a chance to start anew, if Nettles will become the persona they assign to the Dragon Rider who attacked in that battle to protect Rhaenyra's reputation. Does that make sense?
That's an interesting theory. They will make up a persona of someone that doesn't exist who is now deceased and call them Nettles. Interesting. I could see that. That's a good call, Sean. I like that. It's certainly not over. I mean, as Jane said and Damon opined on, you won't blunt Rhaenyra's wrath. But now that Rhaenyra knows it wasn't some plot against her and it was just Damon, there might be a little bit of a reckoning for Lady Jane, but nothing too serious. Probably. I wouldn't make a big assumption. But either way, Sheepslayer's not dead. Rhaena still has a future of some kind, and yeah, like Bela said, we will begin anew, and that's an appropriate sentiment for something that we don't really have a strong ability to predict. Looking Glass Cosplay says, hated how she didn't really check on Syrax when they got back, or really even seemed concerned about her injuries. I know, Rhaenyra was completely unconcerned about Syrax. Like, even when Sheepsealer had Syrax turned over and turned him around and pinned him, that was going really badly before Seasmoke and Caraxes turned the tide again. Yeah, Syrax took some serious wounds, and Rhaenyra didn't really seem to be bothered by it. I wonder if there was a little bit, the cues for her directing might have been off a little bit, given what they maybe told her how to act in that scene, because they can't see what's happening. They're all acting based on cues and what they're told the dragons are doing. They might have changed some of the dragon action after the fact.
I think that's a good point. I would also say, do we think it's a character beat that they intended for Rhaenyra, that
Very
she's
possibly.
so focused? Because, yeah, maybe it happened by mistake during the dragon showdown, but then she still gets back and arrives and just marches away. You don't see a beat of her just like touching her dragon or looking. All it takes is 5 seconds to show her, or one sentence just like talking to a dragon keeper to say attend to her, you know what I mean? But she doesn't. So
Yeah.
I think it was intentional, not necessarily an oversight.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know, Rhaenyra is just single-minded and doesn't care about anything else right now.
I have another possible idea for why that's partly the case, but I'll save it for when it's part of the rest of that particular conversation. Next up, we have Mysaria and Sylvie. Ashea, you have this marked as your favorite scene.
Sorry.
It's a pair of sex workers, one former, one current, both having had princes, which is unusual. And I love the line that Sylvie gives here. 100 sharp little cocks all vying for attention. yeah, kind of is. This episode shows the culmination of how power changes people. I obviously pointed that out as a major theme, but perhaps no other scene than this really just speaks directly to it and doesn't mince words with it. The other ones is a little more symbolic or a little more indirect. This one, Sylvie is just very direct about it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this scene so much was Sylvie, Michelle Bonnard's performance here. I felt her kind of roasting Mysaria, was just like skewering her here, was so on point and so good. And I like that she, I didn't take any crap from her. She didn't just glaze her, as they say, I guess. But regardless, Mysaria was very called out, and I liked her acting here as well. In terms, look at how imperious Mysaria gets. Like, it's so I
haven't written my notes here. It says, you don't exactly curb the idea that you're no longer a woman of the people when you say, that will be all.
Raise your hand up.
Yeah, that is you just kind of made her point for her, didn't you there?
But then at the end, you can tell that Mysaria is somewhat shaken by this. She likes to think of herself as a woman of the people, an advocate for the people, but, she isn't really of the people anymore, and she's becoming further and further from her roots there.
Yeah.
And she's always been pretty self-serving even among that. But yeah, I really like Sylvie. I want to see more of Sylvie. I want to see her rally the people against the aristocracy and all of that.
Fight the power, Sylvie. Yeah, she has, as a fellow sex worker, they're both two people that have a keen sense of power, and that's why the scene is really important. I think some people could easily overlook this one, but I think it's really, really important. Again, as people who started with no power and worked their way up slowly and have gained power, they have a keener sense of what it means in terms of gaining a small amount of power when you have none is a windfall. But when you are born into huge privilege, small gains and losses of power that would be enormous for other people are just days of the week. Like, those are just things that happen from time to time. It isn't, you need big swings to affect people like Aemon, like losing Vhagar or losing the throne, you know. When you have tiny amounts of power or you have no money, gaining $10 is a lot. When you have $1 million, losing $10, you won't even notice it, literally. So Mysaria has just incrementally gained power in so many different ways that maybe she didn't notice her own changes. And that's what Sylvie's pointing out. Like, Sylvie is still an OG. She's an original. She's like, this is kind of like, you know, someone who created an art style that you were part of, and they're like, no, you're no longer part of this. You know, you're being told that you're not in the club anymore. She's like, wait, no, I'm a real one. No, you're not a real one anymore. You're one of them. You're not raging against the machine. You are the machine. And she says, no, but I can change the machine better from inside it. We've heard that argument in a million different places, fact, fiction, fantasy, whatever. It comes up a lot of times, real world, whatever. Yeah. And Ms. Sylvie's just turned off by this whole thing. She's like, look, you and I should both see where this is going. It comes off as, or Mysaria thinks it comes off as, hey, I'm trying to do the best I can with a bad situation. Because it starts off with them agreeing that the fact that Rhaenyra is no longer seeing petitioners is a bad idea. They both fully agree, bad idea, no argument. But Mysaria's way of getting around this is to say, well, hey, I've got her ear. I can just take the important things directly to her. And Sylvie says, yeah, that might work. She doesn't say this exactly, but she says it might. The sentiment is this could work in the short term, what you're saying, Mysaria, but in the long term, it's just creating a new system of everything comes down to you're flattering and cajoling, which is what power do you have in truth, but to flatter and cajole. It's all going to come down to that instead of like a real system of petitioning and responses and justice. It's like, are we really going to have whispering become the new policy? Like, if it's temporary, what means it could just become permanent? I'm not signing up for this. Like, this is corrupt. And you're right. Mysaria thought she was doing good, and it was thrown back in her face. And this, to drive it home, the clothing, like, Mysaria has been the white worm for a long time. That title's existed for a long time, but I'm not sure she really played that part, even dressing in white, like looked the part until now, because now she shines. She's in a gown that cost a year's income.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my favorite things that Sylvie brings up, which is, remember, I think last week I brought up Daemon and how he probably has lots of things that he could just sell and get rid of and have paid the gold cloaks, the city watch. And here I'm like, yeah, Mysaria, her clothes alone here, yeah, she's like hardly anything in the grand scheme of things, but Sylvie's right to point this out. I do think Sylvie's a little too much of a hardliner. I do think you need to have people on the inside and people on the outside to put the pressure. You got to have both. And, you know, it's just, she can't be so holier than thou about that, especially because both Mysaria and Sylvie have long been involved in plenty of shady things. Sylvie is a madam, Mysaria was. They definitely, you have to have done corrupt things to be in that business to some extent, even if she's the most, you know, upright and decent lady in that field. There's going to be some terrible things you got to do to cover up and all of that. And she was sleeping with Aemond, so we know she has, you know, really seen a little bit deeper into this world, and has compromised her morals a little bit for it as well already. So I think Sylvie is a little hard on her, but I'm glad to see Mysaria, the pressure put on Mysaria about this, right?
Yeah, if I could say a few things, I agree that Sylvie is being a little too unfair with Mysaria, but not completely unfair, right? Then she herself in that position has probably done some manipulative, if not abusive things, right? And it's hard for her to be that holier than thou. But one problem, like you said, is this system for finding justice can't be talk to this woman and hope she finds the right time to talk to the queen there and good da. But let's say even that was good. Let's say that Mysaria had it figured out and knew the patterns and the schedules and Rhaenyra's mood, and this would be a way that she could affect some change. All right, but now Mysaria gets to pick and choose what she thinks is the issue of justice, who's more important, and you know, maybe she's magically, perfectly just and understanding, but probably she's going to be swayed by the person that she gets a favor back from, or that has bigger influence on the council or the city economy, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know? So now you're depending on both Mysaria and Rhaenyra to be in the right mood, to be on your side, to have all this stuff. Like it's, and I could see why Sylvie is suspicious of this and frustrated by it. But also, it is better than the other option, which is no chance. No one talks to Rhaenyra. No one has Rhaenyra's ear. Like, it's not the ideal thing, but it is an attempt Mysaria is trying to find. She is trying to use her position to do good. And it might not be the best good, and she might get some personal gain, but the other option is no one's doing it. And I think that's something that Sylvie's missing.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
She might miss that a little easier when Mysaria is standing in front of her in the whatever, $20,000 gown or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. In front of the
some
throne,
level,
like at the base of the throne, has taken her on a private tour. It's like you go to the White House and your friend gives you a private tour and takes you to the Oval Office and stands there like in front of the desk, all but sitting on the desk, and tells you like, I can tell the president whatever you want. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, why aren't they just like having a wine off in some side room? Yeah, why are they in the throne room? Yeah, I mean,
and
it's because she wanted to impress her. Deep down, she
Sylvie
did want to impress her.
Yeah, Sylvie figured it out. You're right.
She is trying to demonstrate the power she has, and she does have power. That's another thing Sylvie was a little off about. It's like, what power do you really have? Like, sure, you don't have the power of a man or the queen, but that's not the same as no power. That doesn't mean you can't have any influence. Like, Orwell is still having an influence on things. It's even oh my God, Alinda.
Yeah, Alinda Massey, yeah.
She has an influence on things, and she's not even on the council or whatever, but she does have, what does Sylvie expect? Well, Mysaria, if you're not the actual queen, then there's no way you can help, so just forget it. But, that doesn't make sense either, But, and on some level, Mysaria could maybe in this position, she needs to present herself in a certain way. Let's just say that is even true. Okay, fine, get the $7,000 dress and not the $20,000 dress, and donate the other $13,000 to the people, and convince Torrhen and Sabitha and all the other people and Daemon, all the other people to do the same. There's all sorts of wealth just laying around for their luxury that they don't really need, that maybe they should have or feel entitled to. But when your worries are the people starving and revolting, you got to shift your gears around a little. And Mysaria is going in the wrong direction by wearing that dress.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not sure about the plan to sell a bunch of stuff. I think that might actually not be as feasible as we're saying. Yeah, exactly. Who has the money to buy them? Who has the ships to send them to places that do? But it's a bad look. You're not wrong. Like, either way, it's a terrible look. And she went over the top to try to impress somebody that shouldn't have been impressed.
Here,
we are.
Say a terrible look.
Terrible look. I don't mean terrible look.
I mean pulling off that white robe.
I meant a terrible vibe.
Yeah, she looks very pregnant, which she does. She's holding her hands like very pregnant in some of these shots.
So Sylvie also points out as she's being, escorted out, or before the guards can get to her, because there's a minute before, she says that will be all. And it's such a big room that takes a minute for the guards to get there. So Sylvie has a minute to say something, which is, no matter how high you rise, they're always going to see you as a whore. Now, the person that needed to hear that was Ulf. The person that needs to hear that is Ulf, because obviously Ormond is pouring honey in his ear. Speaking of pouring honey in someone's ear, we know how much Ormond looks down on people. Of course, he's not looking up at Ulf, which is kind of ironic, because as shamefully as Daemon has treated Ulf, there's an honesty to it that Daemon isn't willing to be decent and have politeness, but pretty much all these other nobles don't like Ulf either, and he's fooled by that because he doesn't know that they're just being polite. He doesn't know that they all... But Ormond weaponizes it. Sylvie, however, I think what she's done in this scene is refuse to weaponize it. She is refusing to take that step. So she has more inner decency than Ulf or Mysaria. Even though I agree with some of your criticisms that she's going a little bit too much of a hardliner, I definitely appreciate the wholesomeness, the refusal of corruption here. Whereas, some people have to get their hands dirty. Not everyone does, though. I think in a lot of ways, Sylvie and Helaena are the wisest ones in this episode. They certainly about this main central theme about power. Not necessarily the ways to wield power, but in terms of understanding how power changes people. in that sense, Helaena and Sylvie are sort of sisters of a sense. Sylvie is able to speak much more bluntly to Mysaria than Helaena can do to Rhaenyra, however. And that's a big difference. Basically, the straightforward version of the theme is stated here, which, as I said at the beginning of this scene, is something I think makes it particularly important. And also, I'm not sure we mentioned it, but Sylvie appeared earlier this season during the scene with petitioners with Rhaenyra when she saw them for the first time.
And seeing the
Sylvie
dragon up in the air, too. We saw her just in the crowd once as well. We saw her, this is, I guess, the third time this season.
Kind of a leadership role she has, kind of a natural leader of sorts, I suppose. Let's talk about Daemon's apology. The scene sort of starts with Elinda and Rhaenyra getting ready for bed, and there's a moment before this where Rhaenyra tosses the skull, and it's a great throw. It's a perfect throw. She throws the skull.
She does it after this.
Oh, she does it after?
She does it after the talk with Daemon.
Okay, cool. Right, but before talking to Mysaria, but in between Daemon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So Daemon arrives, Elinda's asked to stay, and her discomfort really helps frame the scene a bit.
Another arm grab, Aziz.
Another arm grab. Look at that. You're right. An arm grab.
Touched by the queen herself. No, she's always touching the queen. She's brushing her hair, taking the braids out.
She has permission.
But no, what a terrible position Rhaenyra puts her in. But, she doesn't want to get swayed by Daemon and sweet talked and go to bed with him and sleep with him and go. She does not.
She doesn't want to get strangled by him
or killed as well. Maybe that. You're right. I had a nicer think. I think she did once get strangled by him. I think in this case, she didn't want to get cajoled.
I don't think she's worried about that right now. I agree with you that there's things she's worried about. I don't think it's that, but let me go through the details in my take, and you can weigh in with yours, because maybe you're right. Anyway, she is very torn. She's, on one hand, yes, relieved that it wasn't some scheme against her. On the other hand, she keeps coming back to the same thing that happens with her and many other people, which is everyone seems to think her capable of doing worse things than she thinks she's capable of. It's like, well, what would I have done to Rhaena? What do you really think I would have done? Or what would I have done to Helaena? Like, this is multiple times. Like, what would I do to this unborn child? Do you really think I would do that? And they're like, yeah. Daemon doesn't say, yeah, you would hurt her, but he's like, well, what was I supposed to do? I panicked. I wanted to protect my daughter. And he finishes that line with, the daughter that I've neglected. And I think this is a subtle thing that really dug at Rhaenyra, because she's neglecting Joffrey right now. And so that was something she didn't want to hear, but was true. And there's this refrain of pain that she's suffering, and it's like, yes, Daemon hurt me, but I understand why. She might need some time. He's not redeemed. But the things he's standing for here are more understandable. They're more reasonable. They're not selfish. And in the past, he used to pretty much only care about himself and maybe the perception of House Targaryen. Now he definitely shows some concern for his wife and family these days, definitely more in this moment than others. And Matt Smith has really been up to it, as I said earlier, his showing all these other facets of this character, whether they're sincere or not. I think they are, but even if they're not, the acting is top notch. And he says please again in this scene. He's really trying to win her back over. He's like, look, I just was trying to protect my family. You should understand that. But she says to him, look, this skull, this villain, I put so much emotional energy into this person I thought killed my son. This person doesn't exist. It's just vanished. All this energy I put into that person, they're not even real. It's really hard for her to deal with. And I think that's part of why she walked away so quickly in the dragon pit, because that's all was still going through her head, Rhaenyra's head. She's like, there was no villain. This evil person that I invented that was much easier to scapegoat for all this. Now it's someone in my family. Now I have to deal with that. And they lied to me about it. They didn't think I would be fair about it. It is a lot, even though it's not a scheme against her. And he says please one last time, like I said, and she says it's late, and he leaves, and the music starts to play again during the scene. It carries over through other scenes, but it's it's kind of tragic, I guess. Jacob Frank 8470 says, I felt like Rhaenyra took it easy on Daemon. I wanted her to use this moment to rein him in. Maybe she will when she's gathered herself. She's definitely emotional about it. When she regains her strength and processes, maybe that is what will happen. But we'll see what else. What do you guys think?
Can I shout out this one shot of Alinda framed in between Daemon leaning down to Rhaenyra? She's looking down like she doesn't know where to look. She's seeing like two royals in this intimate moment. I just thought that was so comedic, and just the idea of everything that Alinda has seen and experienced. She like went and lived in King's Landing on her own as a spy. Just she has an interesting life. She really sees a lot actually.
Yeah, I thought it was odd that Rhaenyra asked her to stay, and I had some of those same thoughts that you had, Shay, that it's like it keeps a certain filter on both her and Daemon, right? What they'll do and say, at least ostensibly, and whether that is to prevent her from giving in to him, or prevent him from getting violent with her, or to prevent them from, maybe she wanted a witness to what was said or what would happen. It was interesting one way or the other. It stirred a lot of thoughts in me, and it made for, I don't know, a little bit of comedy there too. And I wonder if she'll report any of this to anyone, to Mysaria maybe. I wonder if this is a plot point in any way in the future. I don't know. But regardless, I did appreciate the moment between them. Kind of like Frank said here, I'm glad that she didn't put Daemon to task too hard, because I think this is among the most positive bits we've ever seen from him. And I think even though she's frustrated, understandably, he is trying to do the right thing. And to get mad at him now, well, he'll never do the right thing in the future, right? Like, I think you got to think about the cause and effect of how you treat him here. You can't punish him for trying to do the right thing. Now, she hasn't necessarily punished him for all the times when he didn't try to do the right thing. Maybe you don't exactly reward him here because it was so complicated. There were some wrong things mixed up with the right thing. But I like to hate on Daemon as much as I like to appreciate Cole. I think, just to be contrary to other people, because I feel like Daemon does things that are at least as bad as Cole. But in this there are some moments in this episode where Daemon was doing some good things for once.
You have to have the redemptive moments too.
I don't know if it makes up for all the bad things in the past, but I should at least acknowledge it, and I think Rhaenyra needs to acknowledge it. But it's tough for her to figure out how to move forward. Like, on some level, Mysaria still has a point. Like, he will lie to you. It might be in your best interest, but he's deciding what's in your best interest. He is willing to. Now, she was being total pot calling the kettle black in that moment as she said that. But well,
let's move forward to that scene then, rather than get ahead of ourselves. Let's set up that scene with Mysaria and Daemon, because that is where Rhaenyra kind of opens up about what she actually thinks about some of these things. This scene is called The White Worm and the Black Queen. It starts with Rhaenyra saying Daemon was just protecting his daughter. I don't know. So that's partly why I don't think there's any chicanery with Alinda in that last scene, because they didn't say anything that was a secret. Right?
Can I start? It starts technically going directly from Helena's dream to Rhaenyra lying awake at night, and she can't sleep, and then she gets up, she grabs her robe, so she knows she's going to go
to Mysaria. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then she looks at the skull. And then she's like, and she tosses it in with,
perfect throw, right to the center with it facing. It's a great throw. Yeah, perfect.
And we finally get the skull shot we've theorized about all season and preseason.
Yes,
we thought it was
and
Viserys,
I thought I'd already seen it. I had like a false memory.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Finally get it. I just want to say, and so then she goes to Mysaria and sees her.
I was reading the flames. What can I say? Yeah. So she goes to see, and then.
Real quick. If I could say just real quick, just because that's in line with the other thought that I had a second ago, is that however she feels about Daemon, right, whether she should forgive him or be mad or trust him in the future, whatever, there's still this other thing that she's going through, which is, like you said, this outlet for her grief, anger, whatever, over her son dying. She had someone to blame, and now she doesn't. Like, maybe on some level she can blame Rhaena, but she knows Rhaena didn't go to kill Jace, right? She did something reckless. It had these bad consequences, but it's still hard for her to give her son's death meaning. What was it for? He didn't need to die to win that battle. it wasn't some villain that I can go take down. Just my son just died. You know what I mean?
And
That's
that
hard
kind
to
of
deal with.
pushes back against her idea of being ordained and all that.
Yeah.
Can I compare a movie Aziz just watched for the first time this past year? Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, where Dewey Cox just he decapitates, he slices his brother in half on accident, Anyways, it's a real that kind of moment where you're like, well, you're being reckless and I hate you for it. It's like, he did hate him for it. You could hate your child for doing that.
That's true.
That was with Jenna Fisher, right? From the Office?
With Jenna Fisher.
That movie's hilarious. So Rhaenyra starts the conversation with Mysaria saying he was just protecting his daughter, just protecting Rhaena. And Mysaria still pushes. Now, this is unwise because this is not the right time to make this argument from a strategic point. I'm not talking ethics, morals, whatever. I just mean strategically. If she's trying to manipulate Rhaenyra or win Rhaenyra over, this is the wrong approach. So this scene starts with Mysaria making several mistakes and then sort of rounding it out and saying the absolute perfect right thing in the end. Let's go through the details. Mysaria says, but I was right. I told you he lied, And she's like, yeah, but you were like trying to push this angle that he was scheming against me and you were wrong about that. And she's like, well, but he still lied and he lied for his own reasons. She's like, you lied to me too. He's like, yeah, but I only lie in your best interest. I would only do it to protect you. But this is a terrible time to make that case because Daemon was just trying to protect his daughter and Rhaenyra has lost children and had a stillborn daughter. And this is, I find, a really organic way to present this because the person who's not a parent yet, who is actually pregnant as an actress in this scene, is the one who doesn't understand what it's like to be a parent. You would not make that argument if you were a parent speaking to another parent. You'd be like, yes, I get protecting your own daughter, but you wouldn't just ignore that. You wouldn't just glaze over that. That's too crucial to just shoulder past, which Mysaria kind of tried to do, and it backfired on her. Backfired badly. She says, you've been trying to drive us apart. It isn't just about protecting me. It's about you wanting to be in a relationship with me and having my ear and all that. It's kind of what Aemond accuses Alice of, and in neither case does the person deny it. But consider this. Rather than responding to it, they just bring up something else. She spins it to, well, I've just been trying to make you be like your father. Rather than respond to the Daemon accusation, she says, I'm just trying to make you... And Rhaenyra finally goes, yeah, but that has been not working out at all. I've been like my father. That has been a failure, complete failure. She finally seems to say the thing out loud that we've known all along, that her father was not a good ruler. He had a peaceful reign, but that was not of his own creation. And she says it really well, it's a very poetic line here. And my father was no dreamer, but he lived in a dream. And that's a good point. And beyond the fact that his reign was like that, there's just no comparison to hers and his, right? You can't compare them. The difficulties that he suffered don't add up to even these few months that she's having, probably.
Her life is a nightmare.
Yeah, a lot of ways. And that's part of, that's a neat way to put it, Sean, because of Helena's dream kind of pivoting into this, and she's kind of living in a nightmare. So Mysaria starts to get her bearings in the conversation because, she's pushing too hard. She realizes that this angle she's taking on Daemon, needs to back off a little. This isn't the right time for it. Yes, Mysaria is aiming for power and influence, and so she's a little off kilter by pushing too hard here. This isn't a smooth operator in this moment, but that's partly because Mysaria genuinely is attracted to Rhaenyra. I think this isn't a I'm into you just to gain power. No, she likes her in general. The attraction isn't false. There's multiple things going on here. There's a bit of a wild visual here as Rhaenyra is lying down and Mysaria is about to lie on top of her. Rhaenyra's mouth aligns with the fireplace, and it's like a flame is coming out of her mouth. It's really neat. It kind of looks like she's breathing fire. Now, as Ashay is looking for that photo,
I don't have that one.
Oh, you don't have that one? Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
I wanted to talk about something though.
Okay, go ahead. I'll save my next thoughts for a minute.
I just wanted to note that Rhaenyra sits down on her bed. She opens things up to it. She stands there and then she sits down and Mysaria clocks that and takes a beat, and just like slowly moves closer. I felt that the tension was pretty good here, and that Rhaenyra had given some sort of tacit, consent at first, and then, Mysaria does it very slowly, like touches, like caresses her head in a comforting way. It's very much about the comfort of it all.
And the comforting line is, hold on, Sean. The comforting line is, am I worthy? That's the moment Mysaria knows she has her. She's like, because she really, yes, tell me I'm good. She really, really wants that. She really wants that line said. And
Helaena would give it to her.
Yeah, Mysaria does not drop the ball. She's like, oh, I'm going to give you what you want. Yeah, and then some more. Yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
I just want to point out, especially after my comment last week, look how she's dressed now. This is the most feminine she's been dressed since she came back to King's Landing. Flowy sleeves, she's showing some neck and shoulder. She's presenting herself differently in this moment to Mysaria than she as a woman will say, than she's been trying to present herself to the world for the past few episodes as a king and not a queen.
That's a good point.
Another quick thought. I just have to point out that this comparison to her father, that this, her statement like, oh, well, trying to do the things for the people, what you want, what my father would have wanted, right? What has that got me? The people's respect, prosperity, But the fact is that the other decisions she might have made wouldn't have gotten those things either, right? If she had burned the Hightower army or burned Tumbleton or, imposed some tax or given the money to the soldiers instead of to the any of those other things, right? That where she's doing the right thing or the nice thing, whatever. Those also wouldn't have given her prosperity. They also wouldn't have gotten respect to people. It's a little unfair for her to feel like these decisions I've been trying to make like my dad are wrong. It's not that they're wrong, it's that nothing would have worked. You're living in a nightmare, right?
Well, hang on just a sec. Hang on just a sec, Sean. I want to question you on that one. Is that what she's saying? Is she saying that's the only alternative? I think she's saying that ruling like her father was wrong. I'm not so she's making the conclusion that I should have done what Daemon said. I think she's just saying that this was wrong. There's a million other possibilities, things she could have done. Although I really like your conclusion that almost nothing would have worked, that the whole nightmare thing. That's great. I like that.
The other things you might have done that Daemon would have wanted, or that she might have decided differently, or that some people would have argued for, they would have had similar outcomes as far as the amount of prosperity or respect to the people. But also a bunch of people die. That's the difference, right? Now, Viserys could have made different decisions, not out of niceness, but out of planning better, right? He just needed to have a better vision of what it was going to take to get the things he theoretically wanted, right? If he wants his daughter to be queen, well, he needs to fly around with her and her dragon to all the lords and remind her this is going to be the queen. He needs to have her in the council meetings and listen to what she says, not shut her down and have her serve wine. It makes there are certain things he should have done better, but the things he did wrong weren't being kind to the people, and that's, I'm worried, is the wrong lesson she's going to learn. I've tried to do the nice things and it hasn't worked. So I'm going to stop trying to do the nice things and know that's the wrong lesson to learn. Because if you hadn't done the nice things, you still wouldn't have the things you're aiming for, but there would just also be a bunch of dead people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it.
You know what was shocking to me, Aziz, and you as well, to both of us? The BTS that they never slept together. They say this is their first time consummating things. I don't know about everyone else, but we both had assumed that they had slept together, have been occasionally sleeping together, and it was just off screen, but apparently not.
Yeah, so it's actually a very big moment. It's a bigger moment than it seems. This is basically Rhaenyra finally coming around to that attraction and saying, and consenting to it and saying, yeah, it's finally time. So, and it's kind of ironic that this is what Mysaria was pushing for, and she almost pushed too hard and got it anyway. So yeah, willing yet reluctant. It was a little bit like Alice and Aemon. She was willing, but Aemon himself is willing but reluctant. He just needs to be kind of coached through it just right, and not the wrong things can't be said to him. Like a little bit particular, shall we say? So yeah, I was definitely expecting that they had slept together before. The implication, that's right. And like Aemon, the brand of manipulation is becoming clearer and clearer. Rhaenyra wants to be told she's worthy, as you said, Sean. She tried to get that from Helaena, didn't get it, and now Mysaria knows that this is an important lever. She's like, okay, I've been trying to find something that I can use to have more control over Rhaenyra, more hand in the relationship, to use a Seinfeld term, and she just found it. And I wonder what the extent of that will be. Now, Mysaria isn't some Littlefinger where her manipulations are, I want the throne, things like that. But as Sylvie pointed out, Mysaria might be getting a little bit too deep into the corrupt side of things or something like that. Now, we can also probably assume that she hasn't slept with Daemon since she's been back either. And that is a human angle to things. Rhaenyra is paranoid, stressed out, and she's not getting this release like that you would normally have as a married person.
Well, she slept with Daemon. Emphasis on the slept. She came and slept next to him, but I don't know that. I didn't think that they had slept together, like had sex. But yeah, she did have some comfort and affection, and they like held each other in their sleep. She cuddled.
Yeah, so
but
I guess
she did have to go to his room for that. They're sleeping in separate rooms, it seems, right?
That's true. Yeah. And I think that maybe he was sort of asking to stay that night with her. Maybe not asking for it, but maybe like, hey, this would be good. Not to sleep with her sexually, but to be together. But yeah, that's part of why she shut that down by keeping Alinda there. And then she may have already been thinking about Mysaria, or was ready to go talk to Mysaria because Daemon revealed the rest of the secrets around the scenario, and she wanted to talk to someone about it, and Mysaria was the right one. So yeah,
that is a reason why she might have kept Alinda there. She wanted to make sure it was clear to Daemon that he's not staying. You're going to go after this conversation, however the conversation goes.
Yeah, I agree with things. I agree with the more mundane interpretations of Alinda, because I think she's hyper loyal to Rhaenyra. I'm not too worried about her turning, but always worth keeping an eye on those sort of things. You never know when they'll change, right? It's not, but though it's not like she's been mistreated over and over like Ulf, so there's less to look for there. But still, let's go to Tumbleton. Early in the episode, we see the Riverlords and Winterwolves marching. Apparently, book character Sir Garibald Grey was visible. I think he's this guy in all gray here on the left. Kind of ornate grayish armor, which is kind of cool. I assume that's him. No one else is really all that gray, and pretty much the rest of the characters we know who they are. Or anyway, certainly Kristen's head is right there too, and Black Alley right there. We got Roddy as well. Get the whole crew right into battle. We have an actual overhead shot of Tumbleton that is just super cool. We haven't had a shot like this yet, and I really, really liked it. It was no, not that one. Oh, sorry. Gwaine is riding out to scout and says the Riverlands army is a day away, 2 at most. Ormond remains unconcerned, but manages to mock Sir Kristen's death. Your dim but ambitious friend died in the mud for nothing. Again, Gwaine just keeps his mouth shut. He's like, yeah, there's just no point in arguing with this guy. So last episode, we talked about the fact that Gwaine chose his moment. He waited for Ormond to be sort of apologetic and on a back foot, maybe a little bit in a good mood, and asked him about his plan. And we guessed that there's a good chance Ormond told him some things. But it looks like he did not. It looks like he very clearly didn't. He refers to his piece on the board, which a lot of viewers are going to assume is Corlys, but as the episode works its way through, even he doubts that, and Daeron doubts that too, and we find out, oh, it's Ulf. Ulf is the piece on the board he's talking about. More on that when we get to the Ulf scene. First, the next dinner scene. We had a dinner scene with Alice, Alicent, and Aemond. Now we have my dinner with Hightowers.
I gotta ask real quick, does Ormond's face look fat? Is that why he's worried about eating meat? Do you think his face looks a little fat?
Well, I was wondering, Sean, if you, as a vegetarian, had a little extra respect for Ormond for wanting to not eat meat here at all.
I'm suspicious of it. I'm suspicious. I don't know why they put that in there.
I think it makes sense. He's like a fastidious guy, and it's like it can be gross sometimes to eat meat. It's bloody. It can have like maybe the smell sometimes gets to him. He thinks about the beasts and their smells, and he has like an association.
Smells and textures, and
makes perfect sense that he has an aversion sometimes to meat, and that he would think like, man, what if I could just eat the things that I think are not, not gross
slimy,
sometimes.
You don't have to kill them, and
He's kind of talking about himself. He says, the maesters say fat is good for the bones, but how can something so slippery in substance be truly benign? He's slippery in substance. He's not truly benign.
But Ashay, why did you pause? I feel like when I asked if his face was fat, you paused. Why'd you pause?
I mean, look here. He's definitely looking. He's got the jaw. No, sorry, you guys. Always
I really
Sunny
hope
joke.
there's
Always
some
Sunny
true
joke.
Sunny fans out there getting these deep cuts.
Yeah, I hope you are.
So yeah, he even mentions the people of Nath and I'm turning more towards the vegetable kingdom. Yeah, it's so funny. So yeah, Corlys covers his wine glass. He is encouraged to drink because it wards off the fetid air of this place, according to Ormond. This is a man who doesn't want to waste time, though. He just wants to say, what are you doing? Like, what's this all about? What are you about, Hightower? He says. And he's like, no, you should stay. I want you to be on our side. But it doesn't really seem like Ormond is really counting on that. It's worth a try to bring him over, but he kind of knows. He says, you're a man of the world. What do you see in them? Why limit yourself in tedious alliance to the brutish and incurious? What's kind of neat here is he does have things that those houses have in common. Like the Hightowers and Velaryons have both done a lot of exploration. They're both similarly wealthy and powerful. They have a lot of common ground. Unfortunately, that common ground has mostly been fighting over each other, and that common level of power being so great, it's been arrayed against each other. But yeah, as I said before, Corlys, he just hates Hightowers, and this Hightower isn't helping his opinion.
You see Ormond eating an apple villainously.
Oh, is that an apple?
Yeah, I think it was an apple he cut. And he eats it right off the knife. Either way, he's eating a fruit villainously.
Yeah, it is villainous fruit eating.
It's always a funny trope.
There's no skin in that apple.
He's not allowed to eat.
You're on fire, Sean.
And this is why, I don't know, some of it might just be Ormond is just that arrogant, and some of it is also that he doesn't really think he has a chance of bringing Corlys to their side. He's just using him as a means to, as he says, he's using him as a means to keep the Velaryon men on the sidelines. And we'll talk about whether that's going to work when we get Alan's scene. But he's like, I know your wife was one of them, but that ended predictably. Like, it's like, that's, even he knows not to say something like that when he's winning someone over, as is evidenced by how he speaks to Ulf. Like, he speaks to Ulf very kindly, very reverently, very like, oh, your grievances are well stated and demand justice. Like, you can tell he knows how to suck up and he's willing to suck up to the common born guy and not, he's having a little fun here. I don't think he really had much hope of recruiting the man, but thought he'd throw it out there, just see what happens. Definitely some parallels to this scene in the one in Harrenhal. You got the same number of people at dinner. You got one of them who says almost nothing, is very discomforted by it all. And when he does say something, he's kind of checked about it. Well,
and the funny thing is that it's Daeron and Alicent are the person that's in common, and they have kind of like these similar, reactions.
Like, what is going on here?
I also really liked the edit here, how it goes really smoothly from this scene with Corlys to Daeron, to that you don't know at that instant as it segues that this is now Daeron with Gwaine separately. I found that to be an interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And we'll talk about that scene next, too. We have them in that order, which is nice. Real quick before I get Sean to weigh in here. Definitely the other parallels here, too. You have a man going off about things, talking grandly about his plans, kind of like what Aemon was doing. Alicent is called useful. It's like, you have a use for it. Again, Corlys is referred to it the same way. And there's this awkward moment when Ormond points out that, hey, yeah, us capturing you, that's going to create further chaos in the city. It's true. But Daeron says, well, how's that going to help us with the Winter Wolves clawing at our door? And Daeron and Ormond is like, mean mugs him, and Daeron just looks at his plate. But Corlys catches this. Corlys catches this dynamic. The camera points at him, and he kind of looks from one to the other, and he's like, there's nothing he can do about it, but definitely file that away in the memory banks, Lord Corlys. I'm sure he did. And there's also parallels to Gwaine, just like Corlys. Like, what are you about, Hightower? Gwaine was also like, what are you about, cousin? It's very similar. Like, I want to know what this guy is up to. And he really enjoys keeping it to himself because he just enjoys thinking he's smarter than everybody else. And yeah. So before the finger cutting, which we don't necessarily realizes what's happened until later. Ormond says that, yeah, Rhaenyra is not going to stop her war just because you've been captured, but making her life more difficult, keeping your soldiers sidelined. Yeah, so he kind of tells Corlys what he's about, at least in terms of capturing him, but he obviously doesn't go into his deeper plans, which even still have Daeron confused, as well as Gwaine. Sean, anything to add?
Dead air.
Nothing particular. I guess I'll say at first I was a little perplexed when Corlys is like, all right, just let me go back to my cell, and Ormond's like, okay, sure. But real quick first, and they cut the scene so that he could cut his finger.
By the way, real quick, I think that was like kind of like maybe his own way of getting back at them without even them knowing it. Because remember, that's what Daemon did to him. He's like, by the way, I need your ward as hostage, after he'd already bent the knee. So this might have been a little of that. Sorry.
By the way, I need your finger.
Yeah, but I was wondering if that was connected to this piece on the board, because I also thought, he's got Corlys, but what's that going to do? And he even explains, it's going to add to the strife for King's Landing. But just like Daeron said, all right, well, how does that stop the 20,000 person army that's coming? I still don't understand what your plan is. And I thought maybe they were off screen. Corlys is going to be presented some proposition or some angle that Ormond had or something. No, he's just cutting his finger off. Of course, we do find out it's Ulf in the end, but
well,
I do like the scene.
That's his plan is to, his suggestion to Ulf is that he would install him as Lord of the Tides. I don't think Ormond would, if it came to it, I think he would do everything to avoid having to do that, personally. But I will get to that more later. But yeah, I mean, Ormond, I guess, probably has John Roxton do the chopping. I don't know I think Ormond does.
I don't know that Ormond actually cut the finger off himself.
Yeah, I'm guessing John did.
I think he might have.
Yeah,
he pulled the knife out, but maybe he had him
pulls it out,
doing it.
but I don't know. I
wouldn't. You're right. I mean, the way he's kind of maybe a little squeamish about it.
Yeah, I kind of imagine he hands it to John, and John steps up looking like a freak.
So let's talk about Daeron and Gwaine then.
I do want to say real quick.
One more thing.
I guess we're going to Daeron and Gwaine. Go to Daeron and Gwaine first.
Okay, cool.
My next thoughts were going.
Quickly becoming perhaps the two most likable Greens. I think this is a really smart choice on behalf of the showrunners. It was a common complaint, especially season 2, where they really kind of ill-advised marketing campaign of which side are you on? It's so imbalanced, right? So many people. But this season, not only are people questioning Rhaenyra a lot more because her leadership skills aren't great, even though she has a lot of good intentions. It's certainly taken some steam out of people's rooting for her, and especially now that we have Gwaine, the Paul Rudd of Westeros, on the side of the Greens, and Daeron, who seems like a very decent person, a decent kid, someone who's kind of trapped in it. There's definitely a lot more to. It doesn't make people necessarily change sides, but it makes them understand both sides more, and that's more appropriate. That's like what we want from Game of Thrones style stuff, where it isn't just bad guys and good guys, where everything is simple and you're quite simply rooting for one side. It's the show and the books and everything. It's much better with this sort of conflict.
If Gwaine's a Paul Rudd of Westeros, then Kristen Cole's a Ryan Gosling of Westeros.
So the conversation starts with Daeron. Just again, he's just like perplexed. He's like, what do I do? He's at his wit's end again. He's like, he was in uncommon good spirits, as if he were on the eve of some great victory. And they're like, we're about to get torn up by these soldiers. What the hell? So obviously you can understand why Ormond has some confidence after the fact, now knowing that he has potentially turned an entire dragon rider. At the minimum, that would dramatically change things, right? But still, without them being able to perceive that, they're just like, what the hell is this? It looks so grim. They feel like it's a suicide. And yeah, Daeron at this point, he's likable, but he's also maybe even more pitiable than likable. An example comes here. Daeron didn't actually hear what Ormond said about Kristen Cole's death. He didn't hear him say, your dim, ambitious friend. He didn't hear any of that. But Daeron on his own says, I'm sorry about your friend. I mean, that's just a good thing to do. This is just a way to show that this is a decent person. And Gwaine says he gave himself to the dust. It was kind of an emotional moment there. But then they keep talking about the matter at hand. Am I to sit by impotently as a madman offers us up to the slaughter? It's kind of an extension of what was said before, where he mentioned an episode or two ago. He's like, I hate myself when I'm with him, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, but things are heightening. Things are getting worse. The moment of truth is coming sooner. Gwaine opines about how some people want glory and they try to transcend fate by being remembered. Cole kind of is an example of that. They were just speaking of Kristen Cole, and he wanted to be in songs. Ormond, I assume, wants to be in the history books. He's a historian or fancies himself a man of the histories, probably wants to appear. But they have no idea what to do to stop this. They're like, Daeron says, I could order the army to surrender. Gwaine says, well, we would just be executed if they did that, And you're like, well, all right. Gwaine says, you could fly away on Mysaria. But Daeron says, well, who would offer safe haven to a king who abandoned his men? They both throw out an idea, and the other points out why that's not going to work at all. And Daeron says another good guy thing, a good person thing. He says, I have no fear of insignificance, Gwaine. Rhaenyra can have the throne for all I care. But he says it in such a resigned way, but guess I'm going to have to fight for it because Ormond is making me. It's great acting. I really want to feel like he deserves a shout out. This might have been my favorite scene. It's certainly up there, but I had struggled to actually pick a favorite. I kind of shirked my responsibilities by not highlighting one, but I'll give this one a shout out anyway. What do you think about this one, Sean and Orshea?
Yeah, I really appreciated Daeron's character a little extra here. He's showing himself to be reasonable and honorable. Does that make sense? And him and Gwaine are kind of brainstorming what can we do? And the idea of just running off might save them, but they're worried about their people and the realm. It wouldn't be as honorable to just run off, at least in their scenarios. Like Alicent's trying to just run off to save her daughter, and but she's not causing a bunch of people to die by her doing that. She's saving people's lives by doing that, right? But they're just at a loss. They're not sure what to do. And I also appreciate that, Daeron, in that dinner was still you see his mind spinning so hard on this that even to the point of being contrary to Ormond in front of others, right? That's how much he's torn inside about what's happening here and what am I supposed to do and where is this going? I really appreciated this combo of scenes a lot.
The finger in the box. Yeah, so this continues to progress, related plot line. The scene begins quickly and ends quickly. It's a very efficient scene. He announces to, I guess, some of his men that they've caught some more Hightower loyalists and to summon the confessors. That means torturers. So this does show that Alan is specifically working against the Hightowers. He's actively working against what Ormond is doing, and you can see why this would benefit Ormond. Abu Bakar has a very limited role in this episode, but his reaction to seeing his father's finger was very moving. He's now the shorthand of the Queen. Hey, so I think it's probably going to work. I don't think Alan would do things to put his father at risk, but it's going to make him really conflicted. Who is his first loyalty to? Is it to the Queen? Or is it to his father? Or is it or does he tear himself apart thinking, well, what would my father do? Would my father just say, press on and, don't let them use me as a hostage? So he has to make tough decisions, and who knows what he's going to actually do. And of course, this could impact other parts of this branch of the family. Who knows how Adam would react? How Alan and Baela have a burgeoning relationship. Will that be impacted at all? Because Baela's her grandfather. Rhaenyra's grandfather too. So
you said Baela's her grandfather?
Oh, Baela's her grandfather. Yeah, okay. He is Baela's grandfather, and Rhaenyra's too.
I know the family trees are kind of complicated.
It's wait, but this person is older than. Hold on a second. Yeah. I've said several wrong names today. Smoke instead of sheep stealer, and
it's a Fry from Futurama situation. They're their own grandfathers and such.
That's right. Time travel. So. I don't know that there's a whole lot additional to say about the scene other than asking the questions that we can't answer yet, which is this is going to create some conflict. And we've been at this a while, so let's, rather than opine on those possibilities, let's just move on to the next scene. Save those predictions for another time. This scene is called Turn and Burn. You can't see Ormond right away, but the clues were there before this scene. Not just the fact that Ulf has been treated badly and one of Ormond's spies witnessed him being hit by Daemon in the street, but before you see Ormond, you see this smoke dispenser that's sitting next to Ulf, And it's like, well, who else would have a smoke dispenser, out at his camp? Like, that screams Ormond Hightower, doesn't it? His angle is predictable, though his particular word choices never are. Ormond is very fun to hear talk, even though he's such a bad dude. Kind of captivating. We know what kind of man he is, but Ulf does not. Ulf is way in over his head here. He's being lied to back and left and right, and Ulf seems to have no idea. Ormond presents himself as charming and generous and praiseworthy and respectful, and we know he's none of those things. He's only those things when he's pretending to be. And Ulf says something, that comes out and makes you go, whoa. He says, last time we spoke. It's like, oh, last time we spoke, damn. And he brings up, Honeyholt. That's the castle I want. And Ormond laughs. He's like, Honeyholt is a trifle. He says about this.
And Ormond's like, I do not want you near me in the Reach. And also, as if you're actually getting this castle.
I'm not raising a commoner to that.
So, I feel like it was multiple layers there where he's like, okay, well, even though I'm not actually going to end up giving you a castle, I'm not even going to entertain the idea that you could have a Reach castle. Let's send you off over to Driftmark. And I'm like, Ulf has never been on a boat. He's never been in the sea. He has stick with Honeyholt, Ulf. You were on the right track.
He is the sordid appetite of the striver.
Also, right?
It did just get looted. You're right. That's right. They were occupying it earlier in the war. Ormond says, I heard an disturbing report, an intolerable insult to a man of your stature about Daemon hitting him in the street. And he says, well, to be fair, I wasn't supposed to be there. And he's like, ludicrous. You need your sustenance and cheer. Ludicrous. It's just everything that Rhaenyra could have maybe done better, even if it wasn't her fault. He just jumps all over it. And several things really more Daemon's fault, but not like Rhaenyra helped much. So I do prefer this. The book has never really given us a clear answer as to why Ulf turned. So it's like a lot of things in the show, they have to weigh in on something that was not weighed in on the book. You can't just skip over it. You can't just be like, oh, look, Ulf's on their side now. Having it attached to Ormond has always been a strong theory, and it's part of this journey, part of this episode theme. It's not only a big surprise, a big climactic moment, but he fits into this also well, this whole theme of power and being seduced by power and watching this common man go from wanting to hang out with his friends to wanting to biting his lip when he's told he could be Lord of the Tides.
And saying, burn him.
And just thinking, think about the journey of Aegon, which is our last scene for the episode to talk about, how he goes from the top to the bottom to back at the top. Well, to maybe back at the top. He's got a means to get back to the top anyway. Ulf is the opposite. It's like he started at the bottom and he thinks he's got to ride to the top, but this is all false coin. He's being paid in false coin by a man who is an expert at this, or at least is dealing with somebody that is easy to manipulate, because Ulf is just out of his depth with these sort of games.
He doesn't have a lot of guile to him.
He does not have guile. He doesn't have court practice.
Yeah. This is one of my other favorite scenes. Big surprise. I pick an Ulf scene as one of my favorite scenes. It's one of my favorite ending shots in the shows, actually. It's this humorous yet chilling smile that you see, which is this doofus who's going to be a patsy to this manipulator and is going to cause a lot of deaths because of this. And probably, I like to think Ulf isn't going to be, unaffected by the destruction he's going to rain. He says here with the smile, burn them all. I don't know that I think Ulf is just going to it's just going to go off his back, like water on a duck, as they say. I think he is going to be affected by what he's going to do. And he doesn't realize, he doesn't realize what Ormond is actually asking him to do. And he certainly doesn't realize that he's not going to get the reward, because I don't know how any viewer can think, okay, well, Game of Thrones gave Bronn Highgarden. He became Lord of the Reach. So maybe some viewers think that Ulf could get some huge reward. Ormond, we know Ormond well enough that he's he's never gonna give a common born man a title, let alone such a prestigious title as Lord of Driftmark, Lord of the Tide. You know what I mean? Like, he's not, let alone Honeyhole in the like, he's not gonna do any of that.
He doesn't want him to have it, let alone to be the one to like be responsible for bestowing it upon him.
Yeah,
he doesn't want exactly. I love how he just like lies to his face. He says things that are true to his face, but Ulf doesn't understand what he says. He says, I see who you really are. But he does a strive, the sordid appetite of a striver.
Yeah, a lie was not said.
He sees a man
there.
he can manipulate.
Yeah, he does. He did see that. He's very careful.
The man has bad taste in ale.
Yeah.
You're right, Ashay. He frames it as justice. He's like, they're laughing at you. You deserve, like, that's not fair. You should get to punish them. But Ormond almost certainly has bigger designs than just burning a few people that laughed at him, right? That's not going to help Ormond's designs, except for getting him off Rhaenyra's side. But yeah, so Sean, some vindication here. You didn't like Ulf all along, and now we have, look at this. This is not a good look for Ulf. Do
you like him less now? Do you understand it? Let's see, what do you take about this scene?
Yeah, I've been really curious about your take on this one.
Yeah, the thing is, like, any people, kind of like you said, he's a doofus under the thumb of a manipulator. Like, there's a lot of people who are selfish or mean or lazy, some negative character, but they just go through life and they pay their rent and they work a job and they can't affect too much, right? They're the mean, the negative, whatever things about them don't have large implications. But this guy has a freaking dragon. And even here, I think when he says they'll burn, I think he's envisioning putting Daemon in his place, maybe even actually burning him. He's not envisioning burning a city down and a bunch of innocent people. His friends that he wants to go drink ale with, that's who Ormond wants to burn. I don't know if Ulf really understands what's being asked of him yet, or if he'll even do it. I'm thinking in terms of, let me also say, Ulf has become more sympathetic to me when he gets in his position of power and really it's like a prison. You know what I mean? I wish for him that he could just go back and drink with his buddies, but I also know that he does not some unique thing to him, power corrupts or whatever. Like, once you have a little bit, you want more. And at least at first, what he wanted was to help his buddies out, not to burn his enemies, right? Not to burn the people that mocked him. And that's what Ormond is starting to appeal to, and what he's probably going to end up having to do, quote unquote, having to do. I don't know if we really have to do it. I'm thinking a lot, if I'm not getting too far ahead or taking too long in this, but I'm starting to think about what a tide turning moment this could be, because we go from 6 dragons to sort of 2. Like, it's unclear if you can count Vhagar right now, and Visarions, it's unclear if you can really count Tessarion?
Yeah, Tessarion, yeah, with a T,
Tessarion, yeah. It's unclear if you can even count those 2, right? But even if you do, it's still just 2. And even if the big one counts as 3 or 4, they're still outnumbered, right? But when you switch one to the other side, right, it's not just that they gained one or the other side lost one, both. So now you're looking at 5 to 3, and one of your 3 is the biggest. It is a humongous swing.
And hey, Sean,
especially if you add an element of surprise, as this
you're forgetting something.
Suddenly,
Silverwing's a goer. So, like,
true.
Silverwing's worth 3 on her own, okay?
Yeah. And at this moment, Syrax is injured, right? I don't know exactly how bad, but...
yeah, that's true.
And that's not even counting, not that this is necessarily part of Ormond's plan. In fact, it probably will become disruptive to Ormond's plan, but Sunfyre might get in the mix too. But
Sunfyre is definitely a problem for just about everyone. Yeah, that's why it's part of why it's a great thing that they put it at the end, and part of why we also need to talk about it at the end, because
we'll get into it. It's not just Sunfyre in terms of like, oh, who can Sunfyre mess up or burn? It's just the symbol that is Sunfyre.
Yeah, and the
Aegon's
claim.
Yeah,
and
the
all
meaning
that,
that it is that, like, it's a bad. Yeah,
it's proof of who Aegon is.
It's a bad omen for Rhaenyra and good for Aegon and the Greens couple.
It's an ultimate Cajun of chaos. But yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Go ahead. What's your takes on here, Sean? Yeah.
I also want to give credit to the show and the writing and the acting, because they really set this turn with Ulf up really well. And again, not knowing the books that it's just something that happened, I love that they give what was behind that happening. It makes a lot of sense. I feel like they're trying to do that with Rhaenyra too. They're trying to show her face a bunch of failures and her paranoia kicking in and she's probably going to end up making some bad, even terrible decisions down the line that I think we'll understand better than we did with Dany or whatever, But specifically, I want to point out with Ulf, something for some reason was ringing in my ear. There were a couple times I went back even trying to find him, and I found one of them when he talked about, I'm up there on that hill all by myself. I'm up there alone. I think he's like preemptively protecting himself from having had these meetings with the Ormonds. I think they set that up, that it's not a total surprise that they had more than one meeting, that he was preemptively telling Hugh. And I wish I could remember the other conversation. I feel like it's at least one of the conversation. I thought it might be Daemon, but I couldn't find it. Where he's like, I'm just up there all by myself. No, I think he's being defensive, overly
all by myself.
Defensive.
Yep, nobody else here, not at any point. Yep.
Well, here's my other question for you, Sean. Here, where do you think Hugh will intersect with this? Do you think he will, fight against Ulf and Silverwing? We just talked about how Silverwing and Vermithor are bonded dragons as much as any ever are. Do you think Hugh? Yeah, what do you, like? I mean, Cat's in the city, he knows Cat's in the city. He wants to protect Cat
in the city,
right? What do you think?
So, Ormond, I don't think is trying to destroy Tumbleton necessarily. It's not his active intent. I can't see how that would come about, but it does make sense that this arm is going to show up and attack Tumbleton. And if in that process, especially if, Caraxes or some other dragon shows up and starts burning, if Hugh thinks that Cat is going to be killed because of this, he might burn the army. He might try to stop the army from getting in or stop another dragon from trying to burn the city. I wonder is if or how much he'll be influenced by Ulf, if they'll have a conversation first, or if Ulf will just suddenly be on the other side and Hugh will feel pitted against him, or will understand why Ulf is on the other side and decide to join him. I'm not sure. It's interesting. It could go a lot of ways. I feel like we need at least one more scene with Hugh for me to gauge it a little bit better.
Yeah, is Hugh still in Tumbleton? No, I think he got out. We just didn't see him leave, but we did last see him in Tumbleton.
Yeah, Ormond didn't say he had two pieces on the board that would bring the queen to her knees.
But you have to think that Ormond would say, "Hey, Ulf, is Hugh open to this? Is your this other dragon seed interested?"
Arrange a meeting very similarly. Like, I think Hugh is probably sitting on that same hill, or maybe Hugh hangs out somewhere else. But either way, just as Ormond figured out who Ulf was by watching him in King's Landing having his spies, he could. Yeah, similar means are available.
Brian Valco brings up, would Ulf have told Ormond about Hugh and his wife in Tumbleton? Does Ulf know that he knows Hugh's wife is there because he knows that's why Hugh wants to patrol. So that's just something that Ulf knows that he could or could not have told Ormond.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely interesting that he wasn't in the episode at all, that he wasn't. I mean, it was a full episode and more than 60 minutes like every other episode of the season. But yeah, no time for Hugh. It makes you wonder.
Another little note that reminds you of just the nature of this sort of persuasion, if you will, interrogation. Like Ormond can find stuff out from Ulf that might help him with Hugh or other things that might even seem incidental, but still can give him some direction or some clue. I was just reminded earlier that Rhaenyra was using a good interrogation technique with Helaena, when she started off with, did Aemon try to get you to ride in a battle? She starts off with something that she already knows the answer to. Does that make sense? That's an interrogation technique, is you let them know you already know, and then they're more likely to tell you more stuff. And so Ormond totally has that going on with Ulf here, right? Ulf is just going to let loose any bit of information he has to Ormond.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. Last section, a new old mad king. That's right. Laughing Aegon as people burn definitely has a little bit of Ares vibes. Ares never had a dragon, though. All he had was pyromancers. So the trio plus 2 sellswords make their way north, but discover that an army has departed Maidenpool, headed towards them, and there's an ever-growing stream of refugees in their path.
Real quick. Lisa, I just got to say, this is the Three Amigos. The shot on screen. That's what in my notes I started referring to them.
This is the funniest still. One of the funniest stills they've done. This one and the one of Aegon and Larry sticking their heads out the side of the Ravenry cart was also very comedic. Any of those could have been like a poster for a buddy comedy or something,
So the Maidenpool army is at first headed for Rook's Rest to recapture it, but they apparently changed their minds because they heard that Tywin Lannister was on the road somewhere in the area, and they want to capture him because they think he knows where some of the crown's gold is stashed. Now, they're somewhat trapped because of this. Aegon has kind of already hit rock bottom. You know, he's been told he's been terrible by both these people. His son is dead. He doesn't know that Helaena is pregnant. He has a daughter, but he can't make more children on his own because of his injuries. So he decides to take his last stand. He decides to live with his legacy. It's a little bit like Kristen Cole. But there's a little more that happens first, and there's a little more in play.
Can I say?
Sure.
You see this first shot where Aegon sees the man running with the pig? Do you think anytime Aegon sees a pig, he thinks about playing the Pink Dread prank on Aemon?
He
Like,
might.
do you think, like, in this moment, it all crosses his mind? I just want to leave you guys with that.
It's possible.
'Cause he's carrying
I
a
mean,
pig.
there's a lot of pigs out there, but yeah, it was
Well,
a really meaningful.
A lot of times for Aegon to think about the prank he played on his brother and how his brother eventually burned him and put him in this situation because he pranked him all the time.
Might have
If
led to this directly.
If he
Yeah.
had treated him nicely, would Aemon have turned on him? Anyways, just a side
I'm not
note.
sure because Aegon is bad at self-reflection.
Yeah.
But you're right. It might have still triggered it because
he's been
it's
his
such a
most-
physical symbol.
He's been his most self-reflective since, I think, Laurie said, and you're a terrible
Yeah,
man. And he
that's a good
asked
point.
how this might have him on like a self-reflection kick a little bit.
Yeah, right. And that's why he lands on this is the best course for me is just to die because like there's no hope. I may as well like make a name for myself while I still can, you know, and he can go out meaningfully. His death can actually have more meaning than Kristen Cole's, even though there's some similarity to it. Kristen Cole's like, well, they'll remember me in songs, and maybe I'll slow this enemy army down, but ultimately that's not the songs part is being remembered is what he really cares about. Aegon is thinking, hey, by going out, I can make Rhaenyra a liar and throw it in my brother's face too. So
Does he
of
say
course,
the thing about making her a liar? Because that's a great angle.
No, but
I like that.
it
I
is
think
true,
you're right.
though.
It's true. I like that
Yeah.
angle that it is like a little sticking it to her a little bit.
Yeah, because she said she made everyone think he's dead, and he's like, "Well, I'll show you." So he wants to do what little he can with his rest of his life, which is, you know, in his mind, it's not much, but it is something. And now I've said this before, but I think I said it during the review episode, so I'll say it again here briefly. I don't think Sunfyre's return was done this way just for effect. It was definitely done partially this way for effect, but the book version, you know, he's not dormant like that, but it would just have cost so much more to do the way they have it in the book. Having him just kind of be in one place and not moving was cheaper, and it was still really expensive to have him in one place not moving. Like making that dragon motionless is super expensive. So it does make it a bit contrived, right? Like they making the choice of Sunfyre being immobile means Aegon has to like be near Sunfyre when something happens to make Sunfyre come back. So it all kind of, that's my complaint here, but the execution of the moment was just so good. It was 10 of 10 when they got to that point. So I can complain about how they got to this point, but given what they did with getting to that point, I'm okay with a few shortcuts because it was so good. It's like he went from like, and this is the comic element of this plot line has been present all season long, and they kind of ditched the comedy in this episode to save it all for the end, where he's like, hey, I'm humorously irrelevant, but I'm going to go out with a little meaning. But wait, no, I'm like the Joker riding a dragon now, although he's not actually riding it. But his face is ruined like the Joker's, and Sunfire's face is ruined, and it's the other side of his face. So they each have half a face that's not ruined. He's mad, and yeah, it's just, yeah. It's one of those things where I'm guessing you weren't a huge fan of the setup either, but it's like, man, that execution, it really saved it. And it not only saved it, but it was awesome. So it really won me over. I'm like, yep, I don't care about those complaints. It was just awesome. I loved it. And not just the cinematic, not just the acting, but it does have a really, really fun, interesting effect on the plot. Like, it affects everyone. Every other plot line that was going in this episode has just been thrown for a loop. Whether it's Rhaenyra, Daemon, Ormond, even Daeron, everyone's just, what? He's what now? He's alive? He has his dragon? It's just, what? it's really, the effect on the plot's awesome. So anyway, I'll add a little more, but let me hear you guys say some things, because I know this is such a fun scene. You're probably eager to say some stuff.
You want to say something first, Sean? All right, I can go ahead. I liked it. I've always been a Sunfyre truther, and especially when we saw in the BTS all the work they put into Sunfyre's head model, and how Sunfyre had the half disfigured face from where Sunfyre crashed into the ground and all that, and how
why would they do that if they weren't going to show it?
Why would they not do? Because they put so much work into it, anyways. And it is very like cool for them to have mirrored half faces, and it was moving as much as like, okay, he immediately then executes a bunch of people, or how like, not really so redeemed at all, but there's a vindication, and I found it very moving when he turns around and his eyes well up with tears as he sees his dragon. And this is an episode where we see Rhaenyra not care for her dragon so deeply, and I do see that Aegon cares very deeply for Sunfyre, more than he cares for pretty much any other human, it feels like, you know what I mean? It's his most likable trait is his care for his dragon, although he did still take Sunfyre recklessly. It's like loving your car but then drunk driving with your car, you know what I mean? He did that.
Great analogy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's basically what he did. So
he was literally drunk.
Yeah, he was drunk. So yeah, it was... He had some of it coming, and it was because he had continually bullied his younger brother, but... Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were rooting for Aegon, found it to be a vindicating moment for them, even if they're like, okay, he still has raped women, he still is burning a whole 23 men as they featured. It's not a good thing that he's doing, but it is like cathartic to see someone who's been now downtrodden back on top. But I'm hesitant to root for Aegon ever. Still, he's fun to watch.
Yeah, not good person, great, but good story. Yeah, or great, not great person, great story. Either way. Yeah, Sean, what do you think? Long time coming, this moment, huh?
Yeah, I kind of suspected, when Sunfyre died, quote unquote, and it seemed so obvious to me, but you guys seem to be presenting reasons. Well, maybe he could have lived. I was like, what? No, maybe he must have lived in the books, and maybe you guys are looking for that angle. But then more and more time passed, and he still wasn't coming back. Like they're just doing it different from the books. And I've seen people make comments in our comments or in the chat or whatever. Like, I think this might be how they handle Sunfyre. It made me think that people still think Sunfyre is coming back. Some piece of me was prepared for it, I guess I'll say. And maybe on some level, I just have to accept the magic of dragons. And we saw the dragons in the battle this episode get similarly mauled. Now, they didn't have the fall to the ground that he had, and they weren't laid there with no medical attention or food for months and months. But, okay, whatever. He's going to come back. They did a good job with it. They're kind of like you were saying.
Yeah, right. If you're
really good.
You're gonna take shortcuts, yeah.
Yeah, and the effects that will have in the story are also really good. There are some negatives. I got to even say, though, that and I'll go back and forth here, but I found it really interesting, this move that Aegon was taking. It was the bravest thing he's done in his life. You know what I mean? The most honor and integrity he's ever had. But it steals away from that when, he just has a dragon now, so it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to become a better person. But he did make the decision before the dragon came. He threw his sword to the ground, threw out his, final command, whatever, not knowing the dragon was going to come save him. He was ready to die. So, I can still give the character credit. But it seems like he immediately reverts to being a maniac.
Yes.
Look at them burn.
Power corrupts, absolutely, and it does it really fast when it...
Can I give a shout out here to the actor who plays Wallace Mooton here, character in the books, but the actor is Richard Riddell, and some people might recognize his face and be like, who is this? This guy played the character Bruno in the show Misfits. Season 1, one of the main characters, it's a superhero show, one of the characters is a monkey, like actually a gorilla, and he's like, but he can change into a man, and he sleeps with one of the main characters. Anyways, he's Bruno the gorilla in Misfits Season 1, which is one of my favorite shows, a classic show, has a Game of Thrones actors in that show, a good watch, a hysterical, funny watch. Anyways, I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, why is he so familiar? And it just hits me, I'm like, that's Bruno the Monkey Man from Misfits. So shout out to Wallace Mooton here.
Nice. Yeah.
Also, I want to point out something I've seen people bring up a few times, which is Laurie's just referred to how Sunfyre is like the most beautiful dragon, and now is the most ugly dragon next to like Sheepstealer is eclipsed by Sunfire's jacked up face.
Looks half undead.
Yeah, it does look half undead. Absolutely.
It looks kind of like a Skeksis.
Yes, you're so right. It is very much like a Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. That's so true.
Another factor too is that Sunfyre, we're not dead is different from 100% strength, right? But again, that battle we just saw with the dragons and this moment here, even a dragon that can't fly is still a serious force to be reckoned with. Something we didn't see here or in that other battle is that it's easier to overestimate them because they are still vulnerable to, bolts, to, harpoons or arrows and etc. And it's a way easier to make that shot when you're only moving in 2 dimensions. So a dragon underground is way more vulnerable. But still, you can't ignore it, right? It is still a new thing you have to consider in your battle. And
important to point out that, Sunfyre is landlocked, isn't flying, is just, walking.
Yeah, we're not sure if the dragon can fly. Yeah, it may not be capable of flying.
It might not be capable. And also kind of cool to see this landlocked dragon in an episode where we see what land fight among dragons is like.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like land dragon action.
So the speech he gives, I think, is actually quite crucial. It's not just, hey, I'm going to die, come get me. I mean, there's elements of that, but it's set up for what's going to happen because he survived, and I really like it. He doesn't just say, come and get me. He declares who he is. But he doesn't just say who he is. He says, I'm the anointed king. He says, strike me down, but he makes it a threat. He says, strike the anointed king down and the stranger will come for you. He's loud and full of adrenaline. And behind the scenes, he said, y'all, I can only do this about 8 times. Like, I've only got enough in me to do this take 8 times. Like, Ormond did the throwing up like 30 times, apparently. But Tom Glencairn's like, I'm going to put so much into this that I won't be able to do it over and over. Like, I've only got so many. You better get this, It looks like
his voice yelling like that.
And he nailed it. I don't know which take it was, but he nailed it. So he doesn't just say, come kill me. He dared them to do it. I really like that. And then he says, see the stranger come for you, the mother, all this other stuff. He invokes the gods, which is a big deal because people are going to go around saying that. They're like, he yelled out the gods and then he came back from the dead. His dragon came back from the dead. And what's Rhaenyra going to think? Like the gods are on his side? Everybody's going to be telling this story about coming back from the dead, like being resurrected. It's like Westeros, Jesus and his dragon. Like it's bad for the way she perceives the gods and how she's ordained, and surely they're on my side. And are they? You see things like this? Are they? She's going to really question herself. Now, so it was neat too how he thinks it's working. He's like, they're actually a little afraid to strike down the true king because he's so full of adrenaline and expecting to die that he doesn't process what's going on behind him. Now, there's a real life anecdote from Rome, not the show, but the actual place, the empire. Well, before it was an empire.
I think about that every day.
When it was a republic. There's a guy named Marius who was elected consul 7 times. Now, remember, consul was the highest rank in Rome, and they had 2 of them at a time. This guy reformed the Roman army. It was a really big deal. They're called the Marian Reforms. Now, eventually one day, eventually his power waned. He became a fugitive. He was on the run. He was hiding in an ordinary hut. And a soldier found him. Not even a Roman soldier, but an allied soldier. Some guy from, I don't know, Germany or Africa. I'm not even sure. And the story goes that Marius says, fellow, darest thee strike down Marius? And, it's a supernatural era, superstitious era. People are like, Marius, gods must have favored this guy to give him 7 consulships. So this soldier apparently just like turns around and runs away, screaming like, I'm afraid of Marius. I don't want to strike down this guy. I can't do it. He's unarmed. He's old. I just can't do it. And, it's probably exaggerated. It may not have happened at all, but it was believable enough to go in history books and be there for someone like me to find it and be like, whoa, that's awesome. And then see something kind of like it here. Of course, Marius did end up dead not long after. Maybe Aegon will too, but they've got Sunfyre to go through. Marius has no dragon protecting him. So yeah. Clever addition to the filming of the scene, the way they shot it on top of that is when Tylan sees Sunfyre, which he sees Sunfyre before Aegon does, he drops down, kind of like Daemon did when he was afraid of Sheepstealer burning him. He hears the command Dracarys, hits the deck, then he clambers back to his knees by his sword, and he comes back to a kneeling position. He's facing Aegon on one knee as Sunfyre is blasting them and Aegon is laughing. It's like, hi, I'm subject number one. I'm already kneeling. Not that he hadn't proven himself. I mean, this guy, who looks better than Tywin Lannister in the eyes of their leader right now? The guy that was willing to die with you? He was willing to die with you to go down with that. Like, how could you possibly find a more loyal man, right? And of course, Aegon, being who he is, he might be so ungrateful. He might just be ungrateful enough to not make Tywin his hand to the king or something. But man, he deserve that. You should be hand to the king on the spot.
Yeah, he does deserve it. And it is, Thailand, as much as he's maybe hitched his wagon to the wrong person, definitely, I guess I would say, maybe definitely, he is loyal. I was upset when Shirako Lohar betrayed him there because, he trusted her and he was, willing to sleep with her, I guess, or sleep with her wives. I mean, wives, I meant to say. Maybe she watched. I don't really know. But regardless, I think he clearly does manipulate people, but I feel like he is one of the more guileless characters, ultimately.
Yeah, he's
low
does
guile. Trust.
Yes. And he's kind of the opposite of his proud, arrogant, slightly firstborn ahead of him brother that had his head put on spike. Yeah,
Jason is a lot worse. Tyland is likable in comparison, and he is still annoying to Larys or whatever, and has these annoying traits or is out of touch with lots of things. But I think if things are all good in the realm, Tyland isn't causing active harm to people. He's not trying to be mean. He's generally decent-ish.
And I guess he knows where a lot of the money is, which can really do a lot for Aegon, in terms of getting things going back again.
He's got real combat experience too.
He does too. You're right. He's actually been in battle. Now, Larys is a good thing to bring up because poor guy, he put Otto in jail. He worked against Otto to get Otto removed from the hand position, only for Aegon to give it to Kristen Cole. He was expecting it to be him. And then he stays by Aegon's side all this time, expecting still to be hand to the king, when, if this works out, I'm number 2. Leaves at the exact wrong moment, just should have stayed for one more scene. And how does that, Larys has got to be what the F, man? That's the worst guy ever. I followed him around. I was trying, and just the second I leave, because he's gonna die, that worked? Larys, you're unlucky, man. I'm sorry, just real sorry. What are you gonna do? The question is now, will Aegon accept Casterly Rock maybe as a destination, or is just everything has changed now that he has Sunfyre? So
is he gonna take Sunfyre all the way across Westeros to Casterly Rock? Probably not.
Probably not. You're right. That's not likely.
Without dragons descending on him.
Yeah. So before I talk about how this messes up everyone's plans and hear y'all's takes on that, do you have anything to add about Larys or Tyland, Sean?
Not specifically about Larys and Tyland, but I do want to go back to something that Shea said a second ago.
Sure.
I really do. With the pig, I was just thinking that could have been a chicken or a goat or whatever, but they did choose a pig. I think that you're onto something there. That probably was meant to spark something in Aegon by having him see the pig.
Yeah, I guess you might be right about that. Okay, so
I guess I will say real quick that I wonder what Larys is doing now. I wonder where he went, and he probably couldn't have got too far. He probably will do his best to get right back to Aegon. Hopefully Aegon will accept him back, but he might not be his most trusted right-hand person now. But he might be. Tyland still, Aegon might not give, as you said, the proper gratitude or whatever to Tyland. I expect the Three Amigos adventure to continue. I hope they continue.
Yeah, you wonder. Larys did keep an option open. Remember, he did leave Otto behind with a message that it was a gift for Daemon. So, he is a strong, so there's all that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe he's going to try to go back the other way. It's an issue of timing. If he finds out about Sunfyre quickly enough, then I imagine he will just head on back. But that might not be narratively satisfying. We'll see. I'm not trying to be cagey about it. I really don't know. So about how this messes up everyone's plans. Some of this we've talked about, but let's lay it out all here. The biggest thing that we've already laid out is Rhaenyra. Yes, now she looks like a liar. She looks like not just to a liar in general, but she lied to like the faith and a whole bunch of people. It doesn't look great. I mean, obviously we would say it's way better than, burning a city, but it's not our job. We don't get to decide how other people react to these things, or people in world, that is. Aemond no longer looks like so much of a kinslayer. He probably should have looked like more of one in this world because of Lucerys, but that never really stuck all that much. And being the blamed for Aegon really did. That kind of reverses that now. Now, Rhaenyra still has Aegon's wife and child and unborn child, so she still has leverage over him. How much that will move him is a different question. Being maybe slightly insane might not help that. But I'm not saying he's insane. He certainly was doing the mad laughter thing here. I don't think that he just doesn't care about his family anymore, but we'll see how much leverage that actually is. I'm very curious to see his reaction when he learns he has an unborn child. Like, that's notable, right? That's a piece of information he doesn't have. And I assume he may learn that sometime, and it may affect a lot of things about how he proceeds. Because, let's be honest, a lot of men in this world only care about their sons. He may not give a crap about Helaena and Jaehaera all that much, but he will, if that baby turns out to be a boy, he will care about that child because that's his heir. And an heir, he can't have a new heir of his own body, so that's a particularly big deal to him. Karina Strix says it's great this part has made so many of us happy. Yeah, isn't that right? As for Aemon's plans, well, his plan was just to kind of bide his time anyway. Now, there's plenty of things happening that won't allow him to bide his time. We just talked about the phrase, and this may also change his plans. The fact that his brother is out and about again, not just out and about, but with his dragon. But that's of less certain. What's more certain is Armin's plan. Like, how is Armin going to react to this? How is Ulf going to react to having switched sides to him now that this other guy's out there? Like, how is he going to be signed up to put Daeron on the throne when Daeron has not one, but two brothers ahead of him that are still out there, and they both have dragons? They don't have armies, but that could change. So, yeah, Armin's plans are affected in ways that is hard to see. We don't really know what he's going to do. He might not think it's that big of a deal. He might think it's the biggest deal ever. I really don't know. Jacob,
I kind of think Ormond will just keep doing what he's doing. Like, okay, fine, Aegon could be king. Sorry, Daeron, you wait your turn.
I mean, Daeron kind of said that. Yeah, huh? Daeron kind of said that as well. He's like, when he said you could leave, he's like, he'll just continue on as he was without me. Like, he'll still do this. Yeah.
He still wants to take King's Landing. He wants to defeat Rhaenyra. He wants to take out, I guess he wants to take out the Targaryens. But I think he'll, similar to how I suggested earlier, that he has a long-term plan. And he knows that knows these Targaryens are going to screw something up one way or the other. And he'll move himself, his house, his power, his family will just move into the positions as the Targaryens screw it up. Maybe
his plan is the end of dragons. He wants to get rid of all the dragons because then it'll just be, that's the thing that he says gives the Targaryens their big advantage, that if without that his family would surely be tops. It wouldn't be the Targaryens. Yeah, maybe that's, especially because like he's connected to the High Tower. Hightower's connected to the Citadel, and the Citadel is connected to tampering with the dragons. Maybe preventing them from coming back, maybe messing with the egg. So having him connected to all that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it is resonant with that conspiracy, the Grand Maester
kind of surprised I hadn't
and all that.
But no,
I think it is with his anti-Targaryen, anti-dragon. I hadn't really considered that he was as actively let's sick these dragons against each other and hope they duke it out and just kill each other, and I'm left here without dragons in the mix. Yeah, I like that.
I'm starting to think that I've just had the idea and it lands really hard here. I'm like, that might be it. That might be his goals, the extinction of it. He might be the early proponent of what became the Maester conspiracy, which would be a pretty cool writing choice.
It would be really, really big risk for him. I mean, as much as Gwaine said, you'll put other men's lives on the line, but you won't lay your own down. This would be Ormond kind of putting his life down, because he has to know that if dragons are in the mix here, he could just get torched. And they're
already in the mix. He can't stop that.
Yeah, he's instigating. He is he is making it a surety that dragons will get in the mix by involving Ulf and all of these other. He's triggering more dragon action than maybe just men coming to take Tumbleton, right? Like he's poking the dragon, as it were.
You might think a lot of people in Westeros, especially more religious folk, would look at this from a distance, if it's accurate, and think it's a good thing. Think, yeah, Ormond is a good man for trying to get rid of the dragons. Like that would be, some people might think that's a good thing. Like the Targaryens is like, maybe someone like Raymond Fossaway from Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, who doesn't have the perspective on what a terrible person Ormond was, would be like, yeah, the Targaryens came and, raped our women and burned our land, and anyone who's trying to get rid of them, I'm all about that, especially someone from the Reach like him, so without the proper perspective, you can see why people might support that. And even with the proper perspective, they might still support it. They might still think of it as the lesser of two evils. Like, well, how many people do the dragons kill over time? How much pain and suffering added together does that actually create? It might be worse. Jacob Franks sends a super chat, says, Aegon scene was the scene of the season and a great arc for Aegon. Aegon with a lot of growth over the season despite the low screen time. I felt the emotion. Tom Glencarney was awesome here. Yeah. I agree. What a great way to culminate the whole theme of power, too. Like you said, Sean, his power comes back. He immediately goes dark. The second it comes back, power corrupts instantly. Not just absolutely, but instantly.
Yeah, because he could have been like, turn around, he could have turned around, saw his dragon and been like, bend the knee or burn.
Yeah, but he's
not
like,
give them an option. Also, those men should have started running a long time before that. They're just stunned to see like zombie dragon. Like, what is that?
What is that? Yeah, that would be scary. Like, that's not just a dragon, but it looks dead. Yeah, like it's got saliva running down. It's terrifying. I love the touch of the saliva to make it. Yeah, and cute.
Right?
Yeah, he's cute. Yeah, totally.
I saw someone in the chat who said it was like, like a well-loved stuffed animal that's kind of like fallen to pieces. Cute in that kind of way.
Jillsville also sends a super chat, but no question, just to thank you. And thank you all for listening and hanging out with us today. It was a lot of fun. Another long stream, but we had a lot to say. A lot of opinions, a lot of predictions, but more predictions this Friday because we saved some of them because that's an aspect of things that is best kept separate, especially because there's so much of it. And with only one episode left, well, we got to predict like what's next versus what's next season versus what may or may not happen at all. That's all very exciting. Any final thoughts from either of you before we say the final credits?
No, it might be my favorite episode of the season. It's up there with me. The last couple, in fact. I mean, unsurprisingly, I want more characters, more relationship dynamics, more scenes. I want to not just see the primary, in quotes, characters. I want to see the common born, and I'm getting all of that from these last two. So, yeah, I don't know that I had very many major complaints. Even the complaints I have aren't exactly writing complaints, but sometimes more like, man, I like that character less now, for good reason, right? Like, I don't think they had a misstep by not having Rhaenyra check Cyrax, but man, it's another thing that makes me not like Rhaenyra as much.
Yeah, that's which is strong evidence that it was very intentional. So yeah, let's hope for a great finale. I agree with you. This might have been the strongest episode of the season. It's certainly, based on reviews, it is up there. It did have a lot of the strengths of some of the episodes that were character focused, while also having some strengths of the episodes that have a little more action. And it did a lot of setup for the finale and the final episode, and the final season. So that's great. One last thought from Sean. Let's hear it.
Another little thing occurred to me. We talked earlier about how Helaena said the dragon changes you, right? And Rhaenyra was resistant to admitting that. But then we see with Tom Glencarney, like, he's been separated from his dragon, and he's going through some growth and some reevaluation. And now he's back with his dragon and immediately wants to burn people. So
his growth was incinerated like those maiden pool men.
And, maybe some people are more or less susceptible to it. You know what I mean? I wonder if maybe even Viserys recognized in himself that he was starting to become corrupt. He's like, I need to cut this off before it gets there. Whereas other people either don't recognize it or don't care. Like Daemon's like, yeah, give me the dragon, give me the power. I'm going to take over Westeros. And some people are maybe more oblivious to it, but it's still are more susceptible to it, like maybe Aegon. Anyway, etc. It is a new factor to consider about dragon lore.
Right on. Lady Priss sends a super chat, says, love you guys, 10 years subscribed. Yeah, why, thank you, Lady Priss. That's
hey,
awesome.
Chris, nice to see you.
Yeah.
We've met her in person
Yes.
at conventions, hung out. A great person. Nice to see you here too. It's
Kind of
been
Thrones,
a great.
if I remember right. Maybe
Yes.
Yeah. You see, yeah, exactly.
Here's to 10 more years. Yeah, we'll see some of y'all for the preview stream Friday and a lot more of you for next Monday for the final episode review. We will be, of course, doing some postseason stuff. Our postseason schedule is a little tough because of our travels, but we will do a wrap-up of some kind, maybe some additional content. And, of course, we'll be doing Mad King content. Speaking of Aegon as a Mad King, we've got Aerys the Mad King.
Yeah, we're really excited to talk about the Mad King play. We're seeing it twice. It's one down like at like the lower level, like right up close, and then one from above. So we'll get to see like everything from a bird's eye view and close. Anyway, I'm very excited. It's also our first time in England. We've been to Ireland and Spain, and now we'll get to go to England. We'll get to hang out with our good friends, In Deep Geek and the Clueless Fangirl, Robert and Helen, which is going to be great fun. Other friends that from our community are coming with us. Anyways, it's going to be a really, really fun time. Please, if you're shy and are hesitating, send us an email, say something in the Facebook group. We would love to try to coordinate meeting up with y'all. We might do some karaoke or do something that people can join us in, go view some castles, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I can't believe in 10 days we will be in England. It's kind of just, we've had so much going on.
I've just been too focused on the season.
Yeah,
It hasn't really sunk in for me yet either. But yeah, we're really lucky. We get 2 TV shows and the Mad King play this year. Like, wow, it is a good time in the fandom. Yeah. So here's to good times in the fandom and more good times in the fandom down the road. We will see you all next time. On behalf of Sean and Ashay, I almost said Sean and Aziz.
It is on behalf of you.
It is on behalf of me.
Again, get your votes in for the Hugo Awards by the 8th.
Yes. And thank you to Bran for our intro music, Michael Klarfeld for our maps, and we will see you next time. And you know what to do until then. Valar, read us. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've got 75 episodes on In Deep Geek now.
Wow.
That's how many videos I've published from him. Huh? Oh. Can you hear me, Sean?